Candidate Johnson has come a long way since we started our all-access coverage of his campaign. We captured the good, the bad, and the surreal.
Life starts tumbling. Who's your daddy? Who's your baby? Who's your buddy? Who's your man? See you at the polls. Let's do this.
Hey guys, I'm Willie Geist, and that is a scene from Young Rock, the NBC comedy about the childhood of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, as told by Johnson while he runs in a fictional presidential campaign. Some people, including many of Johnson's hundreds of millions of Instagram followers, have suggested the magnetic professional wrestler turned Hollywood superstar should consider a real-life run for the presidency. His thoughts on that in a moment. Growing up, Johnson bounced around the country as the son of a barnstorming pro wrestler named Rocky Johnson. Dwayne eventually got into the family business and became the biggest star in wrestling, known as the People's Champion. He made his first major appearance in a movie 20 years ago. The Mummy Returns was the beginning of a film career that has put Johnson at the top of the list of Hollywood's highest paid actors for the last 2 years. Dwayne and I got together recently for a Sunday Today Sunday sit-down, and now we bring you an extended cut of that interview, including a birthday toast with his very own Terramana tequila.
I wanted to make sure that the bottle represented its founder. So broad at the shoulders, narrow at the hip.
The neck's a little thin, though, Dwayne.
That neck's a little thin, but there's a little bit of some muscle size to the neck there.
Should we pour a little of the Blanco, of the Terramana Blanco, and have a toast?
We shall, my brother. Let's do it.
So tell me, as we pour this, Dwayne, the story behind this. What gave you the idea? Because I understand it's been a long time coming.
It has been a long time coming, but this idea of creating a tequila brand was something that I had thought about almost 10 years ago. But usually with a lot of things that I do, I like to take my time. I don't like to rush things, especially if it's something that I really feel passionate about. And I feel like there's an opportunity here to create something for who I like to call my number one boss, the consumer. Now, I always have to follow that comment up with, besides my wife and my daughters.
There you go.
As you know, you have 2 kids and a wife too as well.
Yeah.
So when it comes to creating something, I think that they will enjoy, I just want to take my time. And then years later, here we are on my birthday. But I will say, before we raise this glass, tomorrow is your birthday, May 3rd. So this is going to be a good toast, brother, a good happy birthday toast to both of us.
Well, I appreciate it. And a happy birthday to you, not only on the birthdays, but on the 1-year anniversary of Terramana. So cheers to you, and cheers to Terramana.
3 birthdays, here we go.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, cheers.
Randall, to understand me, you got to understand where I came from.
Right in front of you right now is the show Young Rock here on NBC, which has done really well. How accurate is it? How close is it to what your young life was?
Willie, it is accurate to the T. Now, some stories that happen, say, for example, in Nashville, Tennessee, we moved that story to take place in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Something that may have happened in Bethlehem may have shifted to Hawaii, but everything is derived from the truth. And I have had just what I used to call, and still do, a Forrest Gumpian childhood growing up, where the intersection of my life, and we've talked about this in the past, my childhood was wild in that I grew up in the world of professional wrestling, when wrestling in the 80s and in the 70s was way different than it is today. They were all based on local territories and local promotions. And a lot of the times, including my father, the wrestlers would live paycheck to paycheck, but they also lived this really interesting life. And what I mean by interesting is there's a term that we have in the wrestling industry. It's called working the gimmick. And working the gimmick is when wrestlers have to be on their character 24/7. So when you went out, and you and I were kids, and we went out in the public, and we saw, for example, Sergeant Slaughter. Yeah. Well, he was always Sergeant Slaughter. Mm-hmm. We saw, the Iron Sheik. He was always the Iron Sheik. And all these wrestlers, they were always who they were. Now, what's interesting is they had to drive a Cadillac or a Lincoln. They had to look the part, diamonds, you name it. They had to look being a star. But yet the B-side and the revelation is, once they got back in the car, they drove back to their little apartment, and they were still living paycheck to paycheck, and they were still doing their best to survive. So it was this unique upbringing that I had that converged and intersected with all these amazing heroes of mine in the world of pro wrestling. But then, there's a lot of life lessons that I didn't know I was being taught back then that you realize many years later, that had helped shape and groom who I am today.
No question. And I don't think everyone, even some of your fans, fully appreciate what your childhood was like. I think you lived in like 13 or 14 places by the time you were into high school. And then I love the way you talk about arriving in Nashville from Hawaii. You've already got your driver's license. You're a big dude. I think you might have had a mustache at that point. And these kids in Nashville was like, who is this guy?
I did. So we were evicted off the island in Hawaii. Couldn't pay the rent. Again, paycheck to paycheck. I get to Nashville, and I already have a driver's license, because in Hawaii, you could get your driver's license when you're 14.
Right.
So I'm 15. I go to high school. And at that time, there was a TV show, 21 Jump Street.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So of undercover high school.
Johnny Depp, yeah.
Johnny Depp. And they were all convinced, Willie, and this is not hyperbole, that I was an undercover cop. At 15, I was already 6'4", 220. I had a full mustache. I was, I was jacking the weights every day back then too, as well. So I had some muscle to me, and I was driving. So to them, and I looked different, and to everybody, they were thinking, well, this doesn't make sense. He's already got a car. The guy looks like he's 78 years old. There's something wrong. They thought I was an undercover cop. The teachers thought I was an undercover cop, principals, and the students too as well. I had no friends, no play with the ladies whatsoever.
Really? You had the car though, Dwayne. The car didn't help?
The car helped a little bit, but I hung out with a few girls. Those were the ones who just, I think they were more interested in the fact that maybe I was an undercover cop. I don't know. But it was, again, just wild. And from there, we were forced to leave Nashville and wound up in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Same thing all over again. There was that process. Oh, you're an undercover cop. And but then once we settled and we got some roots in Bethlehem, things changed.
No one is more shocked than me. I thought for sure Dwayne was an undercover cop. I was this close to asking him to an Eagles game.
Hey everybody, it's Hoda Kotb from The Today Show. I am so excited to tell you about my new podcast, Making Space with Hoda Kotb. I sit down with some incredible people and we'll hear some uplifting stories.
Listen to Making Space now on Apple Podcasts.
Still to come on the Channel 2 News. Well, the waters are certainly receding now.
Still too close to call.
Lester Holt reporting from Ground Zero, as it's being referred to.
It is, in fact, a taste of freedom. The Haitian people know a little something about resiliency.
What's the biggest risk right now?
Some of the troops who have been proud.
I want to welcome you to the first presidential debate.
In fact, we've been told we can't go any farther. Here are some resilient folks. Let me get a hint.
It was a wealthy, idyllic town forced to confront racism, but when the school board presented its plan, it ignited a national firestorm.
Critical race theory
racism is reversed. False narrative.
Shame. This is Southlake. All episodes available now.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Does the White House think they have an Afghanistan problem or a COVID problem? Do you believe the abortion issue should reflect the will of the people or the will of the elected officials? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work or is this going to backfire?
If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast. Free wherever you get your podcasts.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
Yeah, I mean, you laugh about it now, but you watch Young Rock in the show. That had to be tough on a young kid to just put some roots down and feel like, okay, I'm getting started at this new school and now we're up and moving to a different town. That must have been a difficult childhood.
It was, but you don't know it at that time. You know, Willie, it's just, I was an only child and it's just what I knew. And there was no, there really was no anchoring in. So we never lived in a house. It was always apartments and mobile homes. So there was really no anchoring in, and we would move about every year and a half. But it was just my life at that time, and I didn't know any different. So I would adjust. But now looking back, yes, it was challenging. However, it did force me as a kid to adjust and to be and to be flexible and show a little bit of agility on my feet, to try and make new friends. And on top of all that, by the age of, I would say between the ages of 7 and 11, people thought that I was a little girl because I was so.
Why?
Because I had really soft features and I had really soft afro hair. So everywhere I would go, thank you for laughing, Willie. I appreciate it. I need therapy.
It still hurts, doesn't it?
Things have worked out okay for me.
I was going to say you did all right.
Man, I used to get on the bus, and I never forget. I'll tell this story, and fan audience will appreciate this. I got on the bus when 5th grade, first day of school. I get on the bus. I've never ridden a bus in my life. I'm terrified to get on a bus to begin with. My mom just pushes me on the bus. I'm halfway crying. I sit down next to a kid, and within 60 seconds, he goes, "Can I ask you something?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Are you a boy or a girl?"
Ooh.
I went,
5th grade. Ooh. That'll say, you'll still talk
They'll
about
say
that
anything.
Oh,
so
man.
After he recovered, because I knocked him out, he was, it's the tequila talking, really. It really is.
Does the White House think they have an Afghanistan problem or a COVID problem? Do you believe the abortion issue should reflect the will of the people or the will of the elected officials? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work or is this going to backfire?
If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go.
Is the Delta variant more dangerous to kids, or is it simply more transmissible?
Maryland's Principal of the Year.
I served an amazing group of staff and students.
Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
It was a wealthy, idyllic town forced to confront racism, but when the school board presented its plan, it ignited a national firestorm.
Critical race theory.
Racism in reverse. False narrative.
Shame.
This is Southlake. All episodes available now.
Make the most of your day with
Today in
30. We give you a mix of everything you love about our show
in a mere 30 minutes.
Watch Today in 30 on your schedule, streaming every day on Today All Day. For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go.
Is the Delta variant more dangerous to kids, or is it simply more transmissible?
Maryland's Principal of the Year.
I served an amazing group of staff and students.
Star ever. His father really made a name for himself here in Madison Square Garden. So did his grandfather, Rocky Maivia.
I'm curious how, Dwayne, after, given everything you've said about your life and growing up, the son of a professional wrestler, how once you got through Miami and played football and you tried to play in the CFL and that didn't quite work out, and you fly back to Miami, open your wallet, I have $7 left. What drove you then, knowing the life that could await you as a wrestler, what drove you to that life, to get into the ring?
Passion. It was passion. Again, I grew up, I loved pro wrestling. I loved it, Willie. I loved it. These guys were my heroes, especially at that unique time. In the 80s, in the early 80s, pro wrestling was just such a unique industry because when wrestlers would talk in their interviews, yes, they were over the top and wild, and some talked very soft, and some talked really loud, and some posed and got crazy, and some were very serious. What was interesting about that is there was such a deliverable of authenticity, because back then, if you could not deliver a great interview, you were not going to survive in the world of pro wrestling.
Right.
So these guys, it was all they could do to try and connect down the lens. And then, of course, everything, the match, they would have the match, and hopefully the match was great. But I love pro wrestling, and I love the interview parts of that. And I love these great characters. So I always had a passion for wrestling. So when I was cut from the CFL, and I was sent home, and I had $7 in my pocket, and it wasn't all paper either. It was like $501 and change. at least I rounded up. So I was optimistic in my economics that at least I had $7, and I felt in my gut, Willie, that I had something to offer in the world of pro wrestling. I didn't know what it was. I had no idea. And the fight I got in with my dad was extraordinary. My dad was a pro wrestler, and he came up at a different time, and his thought was, I love you as my son, and look around. We're in a little apartment that I can barely pay for, and I've given my life to pro wrestling. I'm not blaming anyone, but it was my life, and this is what I have. I want more for you. And the reason why we got in a fight, I had just gotten a call from the coach, my coach at the CFL. His name was Wally Buono. He's a legend in the CFL and a mentor of mine. And he just offered me a spot to come back and try out for the team next season. And I said, I appreciate it, coach. Thank you very much, but I'm going to close this chapter in my life. Hung up the phone. My dad said, who was that? And I told him how the call went. And he goes, now, what are you going to do? I said, well, I want to try and get in the business. He goes, what business? I said, in wrestling. We had the biggest fight, Willie, the biggest fight. But eventually he agreed to train me. And the rest was, as they say, through a lot of hard work and a little bit of blood and a lot of sweat, the rest was history.
Welcome to Today All Day.
All day?
Today, all day.
All day. This is a long way of asking who's your favorite character you've ever played? The unicorn. The unicorn. You gotta have the unicorn.
What is she right there? That's why you're saying all these nice things?
Yeah, she gave me the look. Sorry to disturb your day. Everyone's mad at you, Willie.
Better make this fast. I don't want the wrath of Luna.
When I see you, I always think, I wonder what his quote would be.
Give us 6 minutes and we'll ask as many questions as we can.
Welcome to Cold Cuts. Cold Cut. Cold Cut.
My buddy Cal cooking with me.
Dads don't babysit. It's called parenting.
What was the first book you remember loving?
Heart Smart Today with simple exercises to strengthen your heart.
Make the most of your beach days.
It's all about the tracksuit now. How good do they look?
I now pronounce you husband and wife. Kiss the bride.
This morning, a story of people helping people.
You've received tons of letters from people who have been inspired.
Let's do the weather out. Okay. All you gotta do is say, it's cold, it's warm, it's raining, it's snowing. That's it.
One of our most favorite franchises ever, Ambush Makeovers.
Okay.
Look at it. It doesn't look so good.
No, it doesn't look good.
Will you judge us in a cook-off?
I will, and you guys will definitely win something.
Today, all day.
All day?
All day.
Welcome to Today All Day.
Do you feel like the bad guy in this? Why should they believe you when they know that people are getting in? Has it been worth it to make this trip? Do you feel like you're giving a green light to politicians? How do you explain why your case has become so important?
It was a wealthy, idyllic town forced to confront racism, but when the school board presented its plan, it ignited a national firestorm.
Critical race theory.
Racism in reverse. False narrative.
Shame. This is Southlake. All episodes available now.
Does the White House think they have an Afghanistan problem or a COVID problem? Do you believe the abortion issue should reflect the will of the people or the will of the elected officials? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work or is this going to backfire?
If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Prets.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
It was a wealthy, idyllic town forced to confront racism, but when the school board presented its plan, it ignited a national firestorm.
Critical race theory.
Racism in reverse. False narrative. Shame.
This is Southlake. All episodes available now.
Do you feel like the bad guy in this? Why should they believe you when they know that people are getting in? Has it been worth it to make this trip?
Do you feel like you're giving a green light to politicians?
How do you explain why your case has become so important?
Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Which means finally, The Rock has come back home.
And it wasn't like flip on the switch and you're at WrestleMania. It was car dealerships, right, in the parking lot, county fairs, all that kind of stuff to build to where you ultimately arrived.
Correct, because in no way was I ready for the big leagues of the WWE. You got to cut your teeth somewhere. Now, as we were talking about earlier, luckily when I broke into pro wrestling, it was in 1996. So at that time, there were still a few small wrestling territories. Mm-hmm. And one of the territories that was still around was what's considered the Memphis territory, the USWA, where every star eventually came through. You starved down there because you were making $40 a match. That was my guarantee, was $40 per match, literally $40 per match. No more than that, just 40, no more, no less. There is where I cut my teeth and I made my bones and I learned how to wrestle and I learned the wrestling industry. And that was in used car dealerships. It was sometimes in barns, high school gyms, flea markets every week. We would wrestle in a flea market every week, every Monday night. And then every Saturday night was the state fair in Nashville. Wow. Flea market was in Memphis. And I lived at the Waffle House. That was my jam, really.
Smothered, covered, all of it. Yeah,
smothered, covered, the hash browns, the whole deal. 5 cents, I think, was for the jukebox. And we just sit there. I think it was. But yeah, those were times, though, when I look back, so grateful for those times. I didn't have any money back then. Nobody really does when you start out. But man, what a learning lesson that was. Because today, I'll tell you, whether it's whatever it is that's in my life, those times I keep in the forefront of my mind. I truly do. And they give me perspective that I'll never forget. I don't take any of this for granted because things could have been much different for me. And sometimes I look back on some of those stories and I go, I don't know how they weren't. I don't know how sometimes this happened, truly.
I suspect you were going to find a way to get where you are one way or another. But were there ever moments where you were at a county fair or at the flea market where you said, man, I don't know if this is going to work out. Maybe I should have listened to Dad, or maybe I should try to do something else?
Never, honestly. Now, not at that time, because at that time, I was doing what I loved. Now, I love playing football. I love playing football. I loved it. I had a passion for it. I felt like that football was my ticket to buy my parents their first house, for me to buy my first house, buy my mom, we have these dreams, buy my mom her first car, and football was my ticket. Football was my ticket for my education. We couldn't afford college. So I got a full scholarship at University of Miami, played with great players. But in football, I always knew every time I stepped on the field that I was always trying to catch up because I didn't have the football experience a lot of the guys had. I only had 2 years of high school football. And when I got to University of Miami, I got injured my freshman year. So again, I was playing catch up and I was behind. So it's everything that you could, and that's a fast moving game. And players at especially University of Miami at that time, Ray Lewis, Warren Sapp, Gino Torretta, Heisman Trophy winner, you name it. We had the best team in the country. And so the players, we all pushed each other, but it was a very consistent, I got to get better. I got to play catch up. I'm playing catch up here behind the 8 ball. And still trying to find the shift and click moment. You know how in life, when we do something, we do something and it's a shift and click. And I'm here. This is what I was born to do. When I stepped into a wrestling ring, I never had that. This feels at home. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is what I was born to do. So yes, it was at a county fair. Yes, it was at a flea market in front of 150 people. Half of them going, "You suck." That's okay.
That's wrestling. Somebody's got to be telling you suck, right?
That's wrestling. But I never had that moment in wrestling. No. Now, when I left wrestling and transitioned to Hollywood, there was a time there where I wondered if I had made the right decision because the movies, I was, to use a baseball analogy, I was hitting singles, maybe a double if I got lucky, but they weren't in no way, they weren't commensurate, I think, to the success I thought I was going to have. So certainly not the success I already had in wrestling, because I had left wrestling. I quietly walked away from wrestling, and because I felt like I really needed to commit myself to movies and commit myself to that career. And if I was going to have a shot at film in Hollywood or any kind of career that had longevity in Hollywood, I got to commit to it. So when I quietly walked away, there was a time where I felt like, I don't know if this was the right decision.
You know, it's funny, Dwayne, as we sit here toasting all these anniversaries, it was 20 years ago on May the 4th that The Mummy Returns came out, which is the first prominent role you had in a movie. So 20 years since you really did make that transition over. Can you believe from that moment and all those doubts you had about it, where you've ended up now as, by a lot of measures, the biggest star in Hollywood?
No, I can't believe it. No, that was never my goal. Willie, the goal was not to become the biggest this or the biggest that or most this. It was just to have a career that was good. And quality was important to me, because also I came from a world that, while very successful and consistently did good business, what we'll call in the world of pro wrestling, it was looked down upon when I came to Hollywood. And it was because it was wrestling, and it's pro wrestling, and there's a space for it. And yes, the ratings are pretty good, but it's still wrestling.
Yeah.
So I had that mark, and I thought, okay, well, I'm still proud of where I came from. I'm still proud of the name that I built as a pro wrestler, and I love pro wrestling, but I got my work cut out for me. And I think in order for me to overcome these doubts, then I have to have a career that had a foundation of quality to it. And I remember at that time, someone in my life at that time had said, someone in terms of executive at that time said, "Are you sure this is the way to go? There's no lines in the movie. You have one line and it's not even English." Aku Machente is the only thing I would never forget it. It was my one line, and no one really knew what it meant at all. I said, I do. I believe this is the right step and the right transition, the right role, because I don't know what I'm doing. I love this idea of movies, but I've never been on a movie set. So here we go. Let me be a sponge. Let me learn, and let me say Aku Machente like I know what I'm talking about, and let's see what happens.
Well, you nailed that line, because then they gave you another movie out of that, The Scorpion
They gave me
King.
more words to say.
But our guiding light will always be our shared values and love of country.
I want to ask you, as we sip our tequila here, there's a part of Young Rock, as if you're running for president in 2032. A lot of people are reading a lot of things into that because you have been mentioned before. And the truth is, in our divided country, there aren't that many people we all agree on anymore. And I think you're one of them, and Dolly Parton, and there's a handful of them. So is that something that still interests you, Dwayne?
Well, let me take another drink of Terramana before I answer that one. It always helps with the answer. I have a goal and an interest and an ambition to unite our country. And I also feel that if this is what the people want, then I will do that. So, and again, I have to contextualize it, because a lot of times the comments like this are taken out of context. Is I always, and this goes back to me wrestling in flea markets and used car dealerships, even in that, as small and as intimate and as rowdy as those crowds were, Willie, I still had my finger on the pulse of the people, and I always wanted to send them home happy. And I always got an idea of what they wanted in that moment.
So the people telling you they would want that would mean what? That you put it out there and see what people think about it, or that there's polling, or how will you know if the people are asking you to take that step?
I think you would do deep dives of polling and things like that. I think you would really have to make sure that I had the right people in place who know that world in terms of politics, and then we would get a real sense of what the people wanted. So in no way, if I were to ever run for president, would I think, okay, I'm going full bore head, pedal to the metal, surround myself with great people, and not know if this is what the people want. What the people want will lead and inform that decision. And if it is in fact what they want, then I'm going to take another drink of my Terramana, and I'm going to say, okay, let's do it.
You can see more of our interviews with your favorite stars every week on Sunday Today. Until then, thank you for watching.
Hey, Today All Day, we've got a great show for you to kick off your week, including an all-day exclusive chat you can only see here. But first up, I sat down with the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra's newest conductor, who's only the second woman ever in the history of major U.S. orchestras to hold the role. Take a look.
The famed Atlanta Symphony Orchestra recently named a new conductor for its upcoming season, and for the very first time, it will be led by a female music director.
Jenna caught up with the maestro herself for her very first interview since that announcement. Hey, Jenna, morning.
I sure did. Guys, talk about keeping your dreams alive. Natalie Schutzmann wanted to hold the baton since she was a little girl, but the world wasn't ready for her. Now at 56, she's done waiting, and instead, she's paving the way. Listen closely and you may hear, along with the piping of the flutes and the thunder of the timpani, history plays a tune of her own. As the first woman to helm Atlanta's 77-year-old symphony orchestra, ushers in a new era. Talk to me about what it was like stepping on stage in Atlanta to conduct.
Oh my God. I have no words. It was so moving, and the welcome of the audience, which I met actually yesterday night for the first time, was just amazing.
Natalie Schutzmann conducted her debut concert last week after being named music director, making her the only woman currently to lead a major U.S. orchestra and the second ever to hold such a position. For Natalie, conducting is a childhood dream come true.
I very much remember I must have been 7 or 8, and I was in the orchestra pit and I watched the conductor. And when he was taking his baton, I thought it was Mickey Mouse in Fantasia. He was taking this baton and he was doing this, and the sound was coming there. So I was dreaming to have a baton in my hands. And I must tell you, I have been conducting in my heart, in my soul, all through my life.
The daughter of 2 opera singers, Natalie studied music in school, but as the only girl hoping to conduct, she was passed over. That was a job for men.
It was clear to me that at that time, as a woman, forget it, because you will never make it.
Natalie's backup plan was as impressive as her second act. The French native became a celebrated contralto, performing in the world's most prestigious concert halls and opera houses. But she was always studying the maestros in the pit.
My conducting dream was always there, and no young conductor can have a better teaching course than so many years of music making with the greatest people.
What was it like when you first decided to put those voices that said, because you're a woman, you can't do this? What was it like to quiet those voices?
It was a very difficult decision because, when you come as a singer, you come with your long dress. The orchestra, if you sing well, loves you. Everyone loves you. When you jump on the podium, no one loves you first. You have to make it,
First, the orchestras were suspicious of a singer and a woman on the podium.
So I must admit that I spent many nights coming back to my hotel in tears and thinking the next day I stop, because if conducting is this, if I am going to be treated so bad, I will stop. And the next morning I was going up again.
She was hooked. As a solo artist, she had one line of music, but now she could speak through all the voices of the orchestra. Tell me what it feels like when you're conducting. How could you describe it?
I must say, it's probably the most addictive things on earth. Everything you do with your body language, with your eyes, with what you ask to the musicians, has an impact on the sound they produce. And when you feel 100 people at the edge of your hands, of your body, of your soul, and everyone going in the same direction, it's like, when the birds are flying and you are amazed to see them all flying in the same direction. It's completely impossible to understand how it works. This is the same feeling. It's heaven.
With the baton in hand, Natalie says it's not about gender, it's about the artistry and the music, but she takes pride knowing her success means other women will follow. First on the program this historic night, Verdi's Overture to La Forza del Destino. Translation, The Power of Fate.
I dreamed about it, and now it feels really natural to me. You know, when I'm on the podium, I feel this is where I should be. And this is a very special feeling.
Bravo.
I know, well, we gave her a standing ovation. Well, we didn't stand, but we clapped for her. And we saw that she also received a standing ovation. She has great plans for the future of the symphony. She wants to engage the next generation of audiences. She wants to bring in little girls so that they can see a woman do the job. She also wants to do all types of music from Baroque to hip hop.
Hip hop, trendy.
Yes, she's really, really
And I can see, I love how she loves it.
Yeah.
You can see her passion.
I think she had one teacher who wouldn't even give her the chance.
Really?
Wow.
And she said that she loves now that she kind of says to him, you know, look what I'm doing.
Check me out now.
Wow. Is there anybody else like her who sang and professionally and conducted?
She's one of the first. She's only the second woman ever in the United States to hold the job.
Wow.
It's pretty impressive.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Jenna.
Coming up next on Today Talks, Jill Martin is here co-hosting the third hour. That's just ahead.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're going to do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life in prime time. And streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Make the most of your day with Today All Day. Get closer to all your friends at Today in a whole new way.
Today in 30.
We give you a mix of everything you love about our show
in a mere 30 minutes.
Shop today with Jill Martin.
We're helping you shop like never before.
The latest styles and biggest names. Today Food. Things are heating up in the Today All Day kitchen. Cooking essentials and recipe inspiration.
Get ready. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm so ready.
Only on Today All Day.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back. Today on the third hour, Al, Jill, and Chanel reflect on the life and legacy of Colin Powell.
But we begin with the passing of a towering figure in American history. Colin Powell has died at the age of 84. Powell was a military and political trailblazer. He was the first African American to hold several titles: Secretary of State, National Security Advisor, and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Powell's family announced this morning that he died due to complications from COVID-19 and that he had been fully vaccinated.
They're remembering him as a loving husband, father, grandfather, and a great American. President Bush weighing in this morning, noting that Powell was such a favorite of presidents that he earned the Presidential Medal of Freedom twice. We want to bring in NBC White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell. And Kelly, thanks for joining us. I know you've covered Colin Powell for decades. What are you hearing this morning?
Well, what an extraordinary American life for so many reasons, serving a number of presidents from Reagan to both Bushes. Also having a big imprint on American life as someone greatly admired and as someone who, because of his prominent role, of course, a soldier during Vietnam, a commander of soldiers during the first Gulf War back in the early 90s, and such a prominent figure, a voice people trusted. There were times when he was encouraged to be a candidate himself, something that he rebuffed, but over time used his voice in a political way at times, carefully weighing in on national events, especially as the years went by after his time in government service. Just to step back, let's look at the incredible impact. Having been a soldier, having become a four-star general, being chosen as the first African American to be the leader of the Joint Chiefs advising presidents on military issues, then being the first African-American national security advisor inside the White House, the first African-American Secretary of State. Just extraordinary trailblazing there, and such a trusted voice, respected across the political spectrum. He was encouraged to run, chose not to do that himself, and had been, of course, strongly identified with the Republican Party because he had been serving presidents like Reagan and President Bush 41 and Bush 43, also Bill Clinton. But then he did in 1996. He was encouraged to run. That didn't happen. In 2008, at a time when he was a close friend of John McCain, the Republican nominee, he chose to endorse Barack Obama, seeing the sweep of history as the first African-American candidate for the Democratic nomination, who of course became president. And then we saw later how he also endorsed Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden and spoke out forcefully against Donald Trump, and did so again after the insurrection of January 6th. His voice was trusted. There was one period that he looked back on with great regret, calling it a blot on his record, and that's when, under the Bush 43 administration and the run-up to the 2003 Iraq War, he presented as Secretary of State information to the United Nations about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. That proved not to be true, and that weighed on Colin Powell. He was someone who continued to work in political life here, and one of the things I'm so struck by this morning on the personal side is what a kind and gentle figure he was. As a reporter covering someone of his stature, we sometimes interact with people who are more generous than others with reporters, and he had a kindness about him that certainly many of us saw in person. And he was devoted to his wife, Alma. They were married nearly 50 years, 3 children, a strong family. He continued to live here in the Washington suburbs.
And that shines through. You know, you mentioned the kindness, and I think a lot of people feel that way. A lot of us have never met him personally, but you almost feel like he's, you know, that kind of a figure. And I was sitting there thinking, Kelly, as you were just talking, there aren't a lot of people who come through our lifetimes where they're just as beloved in the community as they are on a global scale. And I was just thinking about, I remember, you know, growing up, seeing his book, you know, my grandfather's desk and my grandmother's desk, and it was almost like I didn't even know him, but he was like, you know, in the family, right?
I went to military school, and I got to meet him through my former military commander, and it was just on so many different levels, from a standpoint, he was a kid from New York City, grew up, and to reach those levels, really just we can't say enough, Kelly, and you really helped us put that into perspective about, and I think we're still going to find out more about what he means to the American history and the American public as time goes on.
Admired by so many, Al, really. A role model and admired. And in what are now such caustic political times, he had a gentler figure in his persona, built on the strength of hard work. Nothing came easily to Colin Powell. He earned all of those breakthrough moments and achievements on his own.
Kelly O'Donnell, thank you so much for putting that in perspective for us.
It's a question we've all thought about. What would you do if you had to leave your home at a moment's notice? Would you and your family be ready?
When I got ready to cover Hurricane Ida, I realized, I need a go bag. I used to have one. I hadn't been out and around, and decided you really need one of these things.
Yeah, you talk about it, but do you really do it? That's the thing. So here to show us what we need to do is NBC News senior correspondent Dr. John Torres. Now you see him, we've talked COVID, we've talked so many things with him, but a lot of people don't realize that you train NATO Special Forces to prepare for disasters. You've written this book. It's called Dr. Disaster's Guide to Surviving Everything. So you certainly know of what you speak.
I do, and it's important, especially right now. I think that's one thing the pandemic's taught us is you need to be ready. And I've had to evacuate for a wildfire where literally we had to get in the car and go. And thank goodness we had stuff in the car ready to go to take us, because I was out of my house for 5 days, had nothing to do, nothing to use other than what I carried with me.
And then once you pack it, you have it, right? So it's one of those things where today we all should just take stock. Do we have these at home? And if we don't, do it and then just put it away.
Exactly. It's very important.
So what do you start off with?
And this is the main thing. So there's 2 different types. This is the go bag. You grab and go. This is, I got to get out of my house now. A fire's coming. There's some reason I have to leave. And it has some important things. Number one, you want a flashlight. You want to be able to see where you're going in the middle of the night. That's extremely important. And then you want to have your first aid kit. Obviously I'm a doctor. First aid kit's very important. It's going to be dependent. If you have kids, it's going to be different than if you have adults, than if you have older adults. You want to make sure, my favorite thing, duct tape. It works for everything. It works for everything. Solar charger, cell phones, you want to charge them in case you can get a hold of people. And then your medication's extremely important. Documents, we'll talk about that. A blanket that you can use in case you get cold. These are, it looks
that's
like
a blanket?
It looks like aluminum foil, but it keeps you very warm.
It's like what the runners use.
Exactly.
Okay.
And something people always forget to talk about, toothbrushes. Because you want to make sure your tooth hygiene, even in the middle of all that, and then some cold hard cash always helps too.
Because the ATM, when I was in New Orleans, all the ATMs were down.
And people don't
there was
realize
no
that.
power,
and it might
nobody
be,
had cash.
And it might be that you have $20, it might be that you have $200, it might be you have $2,000, whatever you have small denominations because nobody's going to be able to break 100 for you. And then I'm a big advocate of garbage bags, plastic bags, just because you can use them for everything. It can be a poncho, it can be a garbage bag, it can be storage for water, it can be anything.
What about documents? You know, because a lot of times we think about the physical things, but identity and identification.
And that's a huge thing. And that's what we found out when we were out and about because we had to do different things. You want to have all your documents. You know, passport, IDs, home liens,
originals
home
or
mortgages.
copies?
Copies are the best thing to have. You want your originals stored somewhere. If you can store them online, even better because then you can access them from anywhere. So that's extremely important.
And also the lamination for photos. Like people want to grab those special photos.
And now, of course, your COVID card for your vaccination. You want to make sure you have that as well.
Check.
Simple backpack.
Okay, the solar part got me and the duct tape. Never thought about that. Just honest.
What's the most unique use for duct tape that people wouldn't know?
Oh, yeah, I mean, you can use it to actually put wounds together if you need to before you can get to the emergency room. If it's a big gaping wound, you can use that real quickly to put it together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Go bag.
And this is a different go bag. So that's taking it and going. This is having it in your car and ready to go in your car, which is what we did in our wildfire.
Okay.
And then we take off. So you have a few more things because you don't have to necessarily carry it with you. Maps, extremely important. You want to make sure that you know where you're going.
Physical maps.
Yes, maps. Yeah, ponchos. Again, you can use the garbage bag, but ponchos work great. Some way of lighting a fire because you might need to go out there. You might not be able to get in a hotel. You might need to rough it for a bit. An emergency radio. I can't overemphasize emergency radio.
It's one of those hand crank models.
It is hand crank. It's solar. It has the NOAA, the National Association of Atmosphere, whatever it stands for.
National
Those guys. And then a headlamp and a hat, especially in the middle of winter. You want a hat. The headlamp's important because you want to be able to free your hands. You can just put it around your head.
Power goes out.
And then you can work all sorts of different things. And then something people often forget about. You want to put food in here as well. Have food that you can carry. Sometimes it's canned food. It's hard to open canned food with a can opener.
No use without.
Exactly.
Dr. John, what about water? Yeah, how much water should we have? Per person.
Right, and what they say is a gallon a day per person, and so you want to make sure you have enough water for everybody. And that doesn't mean carrying 2 weeks worth of water. Just a couple days worth of water can really help out, and so it's important.
You know, I went on an RV trip and I didn't have an EpiPen. And I didn't know, is there something you should actually look forward, like if you have allergies, things that you should have in your bag?
And that's important. You want 30 days worth of your medications.
30 days?
Yeah, 30 days. You can go to your doctor and see if you can get an extra prescription. You can talk to the pharmacist about having them on hand. But once you leave, you don't know when you're going to be able to get back to something, especially like you mentioned, you were in a hurricane.
Yeah, what would you actually use, say, a hurricane, earthquake, something like that?
So a wildfire, N95 masks. You want to use those because of all the particulates around there. With the earthquake, you want to make sure, again, a crank radio can help you understand where you are and what's going on around you. The headlamp's important because it can get you to, in the middle of the night when there's no power out there. Those are important things. But overall, it's basically having the stuff you need in order to survive, you and your family, for even just for a few days. And that's the important thing to do.
And also, when you were in breaking news, didn't you used to have a to-go bag?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that you had it and everything. You have to have it to go.
Absolutely.
And now, one of the things, you mentioned my book.
Yes.
I want to give you a copy of my book here.
Thank you
It
very
can help
much.
you with everything. It can't help you if you get in trouble at home, though.
Oh,
You're on your own there, all
That's
right?
a whole different book. That's a shorter pamphlet. It's just an attorney's number.
That's right. It just says, I'm sorry.
Exactly. Dr. John, thank you so much
bet.
for coming in. It's one of those things we talk about it, but you actually have to do it.
Coming up on Hoda and Jenna, tips for a haunted Halloween home makeover. That's coming up next.
Controversy in South Lake tonight after teens posted a racist video.
It was a wealthy, idyllic town, forced to confront racism.
My children were told Rosa Parks is dead. You all have to sit in the back of the bus.
But when the school board presented its plan, this small town fight ignited a national firestorm. Critical race theory.
Racism in reverse.
False narrative of rampant racism.
This is South Lake, an NBC News podcast. All episodes available now. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey everybody, it's Hoda Kotb from the Today Show. I am so excited to tell you about my new podcast, Making Space with Hoda Kotb. I sit down with some incredible people and we'll hear some uplifting stories.
Listen to Making Space now on Apple Podcasts.
Do you feel like the bad guy in this? Why should they believe you when they know that people are getting in? Has it been worth it to make this trip?
Do you feel like you're giving a green light to politicians?
How do you explain why your case has become so important?
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
The Meet the Press Chuck Todd Cast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey everybody, it's Hoda Kotb from the Today Show. I am so excited to tell you about my new podcast, Making Space with Hoda Kotb. I sit down with some incredible people and we'll hear some uplifting stories.
Listen to Making Space now on Apple Podcasts.
Make the most of your day with
Today in 30. We give you a mix of everything you love about our show in a mere 30 minutes.
Savannah and Hoda bring you what you must know. The biggest moments of the morning.
One Republic!
Exclusive interviews.
Why did it work for you?
You're right. I am more talented than the rest.
And important headlines.
Major medical news this morning.
Watch Today in 30 on your schedule. Streaming every day on Today All Day.
Welcome back today on Hoda and Jenna. We've got fun decor ideas to get you in the spooky spirit. Take a look. Okay, if you haven't had the time to decorate your home, whew, I'm feeling a little loopy. Decorate your house yet for Halloween. You better get going. Halloween decorations, they're selling out fast.
But don't you worry, we got a monster list of fun decor ideas that you can still get in time for those trick-or-treaters. And here to show us how to do it all is Monica Mangan. She's the lifestyle expert for East Coast Creative.
Okay, and you guess what? You can shop along, right? So all you need to do is scan that QR code at the bottom of your screen.
Monica, we're ready. We're ready. We're ready.
We're going to start with spiders, and the easiest way to decorate, check this out. We have a spotlight. This is literally no fuss decor. You put this on your house, it's decorated, done and done. So if you want the easiest way, and it's a really great idea to stick it in a planter, the further it is from the house, the larger your spiders are going to get.
Huge spiders.
Huge spiders. And then this cover here, what I love about it is it's $7 and it's plastic. So it can get wet, but it really, I mean, it transforms your door instantly. Add a few spiders to it. And I actually think we might have a guest coming too today.
Okay, come in. Who is it? Oh, wow. What is that?
So you can become part of your decor. How fun is this?
That's kind of cool.
Isn't that great?
Outfit, right? How do the glasses feel?
You'll never lose your kids either. So if you want them to wear this trick-or-treating, you're never going to lose track of them.
You could do a fun TikTok
could just have them wear it every day.
Yes, isn't that so fun?
Thank
so
you.
we have that link too.
Cute.
All right, let's
we're sticking with spiders. Yes. So we have everything set up here. Spiders are just the creepiest. And look how simple these are. You're going to have pumpkins, but take one of these push pins and you just pop them right in.
Oh my gosh.
And you can tell they're actually like heavy duty metal, so they'll last year after year, but they take your pumpkins instantly creepy, right? You could do them into gourds, things like that. And then for this DIY, these are spider egg sacs, which is just disgusting even to say, right?
Yeah.
So what I have here are just some tights that I got at the dollar store, really inexpensive. I'm gonna fill it all the way with spider web.
Okay.
It's like putting tights on, right? It's gonna be good.
Okay.
All right, spread a little bit of it on the outside, and then spider rings. They just stick right in. It looks so creepy. And then to hang it, you're just going to use a light clip like you would use for Christmas lights around the season. Obviously, we need to tie it all up. But you can see back there just how creepy they look if they're hanging from your front porch.
Inside.
Aren't they so gross?
Really
in a good way. Yeah. All right, less creepy over here.
This is going to be like our kids area.
Right?
Happy.
And Hoda likes unicorns.
Yes, I do.
Yes. This unicorn skeleton, I mean, skeletons come in so many shapes and sizes now, and we even used a little craft paint on the rib cage to add a little more rainbow there. The tip for making Halloween less creepy, more fun is embrace all the colors. Embrace rainbows. Embrace regular party supplies. You talked about a lot of it not being available right now. Just think of birthday balloons. Just think of garlands. This could all work under a covered porch. And I got these tombstones, you know, kind of creepy. Spray paint them bright colors, totally looks completely different.
And I love the pumpkins.
Right?
How did you make this guy?
So this is a kit, and it comes with everything you need. It's super kid friendly because it's all peel and stick, and you just pop it in. Really, really fun. And I think it came with like 12 or 10 of them in one kit, so you can make a bunch of them.
Super fun. Cute. Okay, let's move over to this under the sea theme.
Yes. So what we're getting you to think of is you can work with just the building block spider skeletons, but it can look totally different. So end of season, you have lots of pool noodles left. We use that to be our seaweed, right? we couldn't, if you can't get a lot of Halloween things, think in different departments. So little gold coins, make a treasure box, dress your skeletons up as pirates. And look, she's a mermaid. That is a mermaid skeleton.
Brilliant. How did you get
right?
these? Where did you get
so
these?
These are from Oriental Trading Company, and I checked. They're in stock.
They're in stock. Okay.
They're in stock. Okay. Little jellyfish. So really thinking
have jellyfish skeletons.
Yes,
That's
and
so
he even
crazy.
lights up too. And how cute is he with the little bandana?
Love.
So you can just create a different theme. It doesn't always have to be just your traditional Halloween. And I think the kids are going to love it so much more.
Good. I like that it's in
so
stock.
creative, and I like the backdrop. That's also from there.
Yeah. So it's just those are just party birthday balloons, blue, and we put them in a fishnet.
You're so clever.
Right?
You're so
Super
smart.
simple. And none of it was hard.
Thank you so much. And to check out this Halloween decor, head to today.com/shop. Today Talks continues after the break. We have an exclusive chat you can only see here on Today All Day.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're going to do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Does the White House think they have an Afghanistan problem or a COVID problem? Do you believe the abortion issue should reflect the will of the people or the will of the elected officials? The vaccine mandate, is this going to work or is this going to backfire? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Does the White House think they have an Afghanistan problem or a COVID problem? Do you believe the abortion issue should reflect the will of the people or the will of the elected officials? The vaccine mandate, is this going to work or is this going to backfire? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Make the most of your day with
Today in 30. We give you a mix of everything you love about our show
in a mere 30 minutes.
Watch Today in 30 on your schedule, streaming every day on Today All Day.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Today Talks and our exclusive content you can only see here on Today All Day. We just had a black cat cross our path. See, there it goes. Crossing our path. But can I tell you, I want to just pet. I love cats. Where'd it go?
Cats.
I love
Does
cats.
anything creep you out? Do you really get superstitious?
No.
The whole step on a crack, step under a ladder.
Step on a crack and break your mother's back. No, I think that's an old wives' tale. But I will say, and I love cats, and I love we always had black cats.
Yeah.
One named Cowboy, one and one named Willard, named after Willard Scott. But on Halloween, we would have to keep our cats inside because people were weird about and mean to black cats.
Okay, but let me ask you this: if you saw a ladder,
would I walk under it?
Would you? And you had an option of going around it. Would you go? I don't know. I'm asking you if you care.
That's like if you saw a mirror, would you try to break it?
No, that's different. If I'm walking and there's people in the way, would I go out of my way to go around?
Yes.
You would.
Would you?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want any extra bad stuff coming. Is it a full? Did you see the full moon? Was it a full moon?
What?
This morning, yeah, I think it was full. It was really
You
big
mean
and
last
beautiful.
night?
Well,
okay, so yesterday we were driving home, and all of a sudden, and I just love that, this is how you detect that something beautiful is happening. Henry goes, why are all these people taking pictures? We look out, and I just look at him like, oh, maybe it's an Instagram influencer moment in the wild, you know? Henry's like, looking behind, and there's a huge rainbow over New York City. There was actually a double rainbow.
What?
But the fact that we had to find people taking a picture for us to find the natural beauty moment, it cracks me up.
By the way, that's so crazy. So there was a song, what I've noticed lately about, speaking of that, because we've been talking about rainbows, and we were trying to see it last night because it was raining and sunny.
Yes.
We couldn't find it before bed. But we played this song. And it's a Daniel Tiger song. Let me see if I can find it really fast. No, this is important because you know why? But do you know why?
No.
It made Haley's eyes well up.
Hoda used to go to the Grammys after party, and now she spends her Sunday nights listening to Daniel Tiger. I knew this day would come. Remember when you'd be like, oh yeah, just hanging out at the Grammys, and you'd be like, what'd you do this weekend? And I'd be like, oh, not much.
Oh, that's so funny.
Right?
That is such a funny thing.
It is so true. Now
But
Daniel
my
is
son makes me emotional now. Everything does. Everything does. It happens. All right, that's it for this episode of Today Talks. Keep watching for more of Today All Day.
Welcome back. Time now for our series On the Job. This morning, NBC's Jacob Soboroff met a man on a mission to change how we look at water. Hey, Jacob.
Hey, Jacob. At water. Good morning, you guys. You know, water is a billion-dollar industry in the United States of America. We have more choices than ever before. You might think water tastes all the same, but I met a guy who's going to change the way you think about all that. Watch this.
Deep in the Santa Monica Mountains, a private four-course dinner prepared by an international chef. But it's not a dry Riesling or a silky Pinot that's being paired on the tasting menu this night. It's water. That's right, regular old water. Meet Martin Riese, America's first water sommelier. And yes, that's his real job. He's out to show people that water has a taste, and he's doing it one sip at a time.
When I was like 4 or 5 years old, I realized that water has taste to me. Because on vacation time with my parents, I realized that the tap water in every single city in Europe tasted differently to me.
Today, he is a fully certified water sommelier, having written books and devised water menus for restaurants all around the world. What do you want people to know who might look at this and say, water is water, this is a little ridiculous?
When you think first, oh, there's a water sommelier, this has to be the most pretentious job on planet Earth. But the bigger picture is to bring attention to water, to really showcase, hey, there's so much value actually to water. We should not waste it, we should be very precious about it.
Martin's water advocacy has led to appearances worldwide, including on Bill Nye the Science Guy and the Netflix show Down to Earth with Zac Efron.
We all need to drink it. We drink it on a daily basis, but nobody actually talks about it. It's kind of crazy.
We decided to give water tasting a try. What happens if I need to go pee is the thing I've been thinking about the whole time.
I have to say, this is the most important thing you have to know. So there are restrooms over there and there are restrooms over there.
Okay, here we go. Ooh, there's a little more of a fuller body.
Yes, I love this that you're saying
right?
this. I'm always saying it's the oil of water.
It tastes thicker.
Correct.
What's creating that really full feeling?
This is what Mother Nature does. You can taste now the different soils and minerals what's been in that ground.
So depending on where this was groundwater,
correct,
it's going to taste different.
Yes, absolutely. Farewell from Italy, from Naples. Cheers. Bubbles.
Cheers.
Now it's natural carbonated water.
Here we go. A light bubble to it.
Very good. They're calling it micro bubbles.
So the bubbles occur naturally as well?
Yes.
I didn't ask about smell yet. Wait a minute, do they smell differently or no?
My grandmother survived 2 world wars, and she said when water has a smell, don't drink it.
Don't drink it.
Vichy, the last one today, from Spain.
Vichy. What is that flavor?
Crazy, huh?
Wait a minute. It's something delightful.
I love Vichy.
What is it?
It's a lot of sodium is in this water.
Salty water.
Slightly salty.
I knew it. So it's like, instead of drinking one of those flavored sparkling waters everybody's drinking these days, it almost takes the place of that.
And that's what I think is amazing, that Mother Nature already creates taste.
So no need to have artificial.
You don't need to.
You are flipping my world upside down when it comes to how I think about water.
Everybody says like it's almost like a life-changing experience.
Martin, thank you very much.
Absolutely, and it's right over there.
Yeah. I gotta pee. I really did have to go to the bathroom. I have to admit, that's a lot of water to drink. You know, you guys, there's over 100 water sommeliers worldwide. Martin is actually certifying people right now to do his job. And one thing I want to tell you is an admission to make. Today is Noah, my son's first day of school. I'm just going to fill it up with filtered water from the tap.
Yeah, okay. Like that's just...
Hey, so Jacob, if you go to a water tasting, what do you drink to clear your palate?
I asked the same question, Al. He said water will clear your palate. Just stick with the water and then water and more water.
I was hoping you would say vodka.
I know, right? Do we have something special here?
Or is Oh, this has such a minerally taste, and yet it comes across with warm tannins. Thank you so much.
I promise you, Martin is he is an expert. I will give you that.
And he's got a great accent,
I know.
so you can't beat that. Jacob, thank you.
All right,
so
Jacob,
much,
thank
my
you.
friend.
Tough work.
That's
What
right.
a tough assignment.
Still to come in the Channel 2 News. Well, the waters are certainly receding now.
Still too close to call. Lester Holt reporting from New York.
Ground zero, as it's being referred to.
It is, in fact, a taste of freedom. The Haitian people know a little something about resiliency. What's the biggest risk right now? Some of the troops who have been proud. I want to welcome you to the first presidential debate. In fact, we've been told we can't go any farther. You are some resilient folks. Let me get a hint.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now. For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
I once told my dad I have your sense of humor, and my dad said, I know, I want it back.
The bread cubes have to be about this small.
Puzzles Bakery and Cafe, how can I help you? Hi, my name is Sarah May. I'm the owner of Puzzles Bakery and Cafe here in Schenectady, New York. My inspiration for opening Puzzles Bakery and Cafe was absolutely my sister Emily. She's my only sibling, and she's now 25 years old, and she's on the lower functioning end of the autism spectrum. So she's someone who would never really be work ready. But what I was noticing is she was getting closer and closer to aging out of the education system. Here in New York at age 21, that's when people age out of public education. So she was nearing adulthood, and we were starting to realize what kind of opportunities are available for people with developmental disabilities. I was recently graduated from college and looking for some purpose in my life, and I decided to open a restaurant to help employ people with special needs. Puzzles Bakery and Cafe is an integrated workplace, and that means we have people working here both who have developmental disabilities and also those who are neurotypical and do not have developmental disabilities. Good, and let's bring that out. Order for goose. We have a number of different opportunities available here, but on any given day, our employees might be doing things like slicing onions in the back of the house, or bringing food out to customers, identifying that food and delivering it to the correct table.
Here's a chip chipotle.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Well, I'm a cafe attendant. I do everything to help out.
Tim has been with us from day one. He is one of the most enthusiastic workers that you will ever meet.
I also make people happy.
I don't think I've ever seen him have a bad day. I think it's really special that we've had employees who started with us when we first opened and are still here with us today and will probably be employed with us for a very long time.
I really love working with food, because there's nothing that makes people happier than a good meal. I've been working here since the beginning. I feel like I get treated like a person. I've always been treated like less than. People are kind here. People are nice. People treat you with respect. In the service industry, people aren't like that. And especially when you're disabled, it's hard when people treat you like they don't have a brain. But I do.
Another really special task that we have here is creating our signature puzzle piece sugar cookie.
My favorite things to do around here is to make croutons.
It is our original crouton recipe, but Tim has really just enjoyed the process of making croutons, and he's so good at it that whenever he comes in, we say, Tim, you want to whip up a batch of your famous croutons?
I am eyeballing it. Then I'm going to mix it up.
When I was growing up and my family would try to bring my sister maybe grocery shopping or to a restaurant, we never knew if she might have a meltdown or some behaviors out in public. And that's something that families with younger children with disabilities, they might be concerned about. All of our employees are really understanding and trained. They would completely understand if somebody was having a meltdown in a way that might be sort of socially inappropriate elsewhere. It's okay here. Puzzles Bakery and Cafe is a place where everyone fits in. We go out of our way to hire people with special needs, so we do get a lot of applications. Something that's really heartbreaking to me, that there are so many people in our community who want nothing more than the opportunity to be working, and we don't have that many jobs available for them.
They've had so many people tell them that they can't do it, and every day that they come into work here, they're proving them wrong.
My big dream for Puzzles was always to open more locations, because we can only offer so many opportunities here in one location. We're not there yet. I'm one person, I'm 28 years old, I have a new baby, I can't do that. I would love to get to a point where we can help people make that a reality in their own communities. But in the meantime, I think it just takes a really special kind of team to create a social enterprise like what we have here. Take a chance on people with special needs. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. We have some of the most dedicated, loyal, amazing workers here at Puzzles, and I know that all across the country, there are people with developmental disabilities who want nothing more than to be given the opportunity to work.
Just treat people good. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And always save room for ice cream.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
Make the most of your day with
Today in 30. We give you a mix of everything you love about our show in a mere 30 minutes.
Savannah and Hoda bring you what you must know. The biggest moments of the morning.
One Republic!
Exclusive interviews.
Why did it work for you?
You're right. I am more talented than the rest.
And important headlines.
Major medical news this morning.
Watch Today in 30 on your schedule. Streaming every day on Today All Day.
Does the White House think they have an Afghanistan problem or a COVID problem? Do you believe the abortion issue should reflect the will of the people or the will of the elected officials? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work or is this going to backfire?
If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Do you feel like the bad guy in this? Why should they believe you when they know that people are getting in? Has it been worth it to make this trip? Do you feel like you're giving a green light to politicians? How do you explain why your case has become so important?
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas. Weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your newsfeed to life. Streaming live every night, it's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas. Weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
You want some sauce?
Yeah, he likes sauce.
All right.
No.
We thank you, sir. God bless you. Come on down. Sometimes mistakes can turn into the best thing, especially when cooking.
Beautiful.
All right, give me a good brush on that, my dear. That's what I'm talking about. My name is Stefan DeArmond. My nickname is the Reverend. I like to say Revy Rev. I was living in Mobile, Alabama when I decided to move back to Charleston. My father had been back and forth in the hospital. And when I came to visit, I really saw how my mom's condition was as far as her sight. She's legally blind, but she cooks and she bakes. It gets a little tough, but you know, it's your parents. You gotta do what you gotta do. I joined the Coast Guard right here in Charleston, and I retired in San Juan, Puerto Rico. 180 Place is a homeless shelter here in Charleston, South Carolina. Little did I know that it would mean so much to me and become such an integral part of my life. When I got here, I didn't have the funds to come in and get a place, pay first month, second month, deposits, and all of that. So I talked to a VA social worker in Alabama, and they told me, well, if you could put your pride aside, I can get you in the shelter. I said, whatever it takes for me to get home to my parents. I was blessed to be able to go to the veterans dorm. This place have saved my life and many others. Being homeless is a different animal. It's not pleasant. You can't sleep with one eye open. So being homeless, you don't get the rest that your body needs for you to be able to be successful or even productive in life. 180 Place has many great programs, including the culinary program, which I went through, which led to why we're here now.
So my job is to take the trainees that come through the program and give them a crash course in how to behave in a kitchen, how to work in a kitchen, how to survive in a kitchen, and turn that into viable income.
Chef Angie Dupree, we have a friendship and a bond that'll last a lifetime.
Southern hospitality to its truest meaning would be something I would use to describe Stefan. Just making everyone feel special that walks into a room.
That's my girl. I've always loved to cook. I used to hang around my mother, my grandmother, and I loved it.
He is the reason this program works. He's somebody I talk about at every orientation now. For every new cycle, when I sit down with them, I tell them about Stefan and how he came in and took this opportunity. To him, it was all he needed to really change his life.
I was introduced to Charleston wine and food just right before I graduated from the program. So it was new and exciting to me. I was looking so forward to it. Chef Angie gave us specific instructions. Local, volunteer and work for someone who is local. Here's your opportunity to get yourself a job. And that's what we did. I remember the event was called Toasted, and it was nothing but barbecue. And I walked up, I didn't notice the sign said smoke. I looked at the menu and I said, I've eaten here before.
We were sitting right next to the band, and the band kicked on, and Stefan lit up. He started swaying and clapping, and he had his black chef coat and his white undershirt. And I said, sir, you've got the spirit. I'm calling you the Reverend, and you're coming to work at Smoke Barbecue. So we hired Stefan on as a steward, and we don't call people dishwashers here at Smoke. We call them stewards because we expect a lot more out of a person than just washing dishes. After a few months, he worked his way up to sous chef and one of our pit masters, and we've been with him ever since.
So one day I was in the kitchen and I started prepping to do some cornbread. Well, I reached into the walk-in cooler to grab some buttermilk. Little did I know I grabbed heavy cream. So as soon as I poured it in the mix and started mixing it up, I was like, oh no! Rolling can running. What happened? I said, man, I messed up. And he said, let's go with it, see what it does. Lo and behold, it came out a little bit higher. It came out more moist. It was golden brown. And he was like, wow. We passed the food out so everybody can check it out and say, well or not, we're gonna serve it. And everyone loved it.
It really is delicious, moist cornbread, and it's pretty fantastic.
That gave Roland the idea of he and I going into business. And now we have the Reverend Cornbread Company. I can honestly say that that mistake in the kitchen turned out to be something that's life-changing. And I found out that I'd be teaching a class at this year's Charleston Wine and Food. It was mind-boggling. Look where you came from and look where you're at now. There we go. Go ahead.
I want to do the honey.
Here you go, honey.
Thank you.
For the people that attend the Charleston Wine and Food and their events, they're paying good money. And for them to pay money to see me or have me teach them something, it's amazing. I still can't believe it. What we're going to do today is we're going to go down to the Superstop and we're going to feed the homeless.
It just goes to show you there's nothing wrong with a mistake. It's amazing what happens.
I mean, his story, it gives you hope that, hey, look, just because you're down right now don't mean you stay down.
He took an interesting situation, made it an even better situation, and now it is exactly where he wants to be, helping people and giving back.
Without hope, you don't have anything. 180 Place gave me hope and an avenue, because dealing with what I had to with my parents, to do something that I really love, which is cooking, it was a relief. You know, it was my safe haven. To see people get satisfaction of something that I've created is one of the best feelings ever. When I reflect on what I'm doing, I think about my parents. Just like any child, they would want their parents to see them succeed. But my mom would say, you keep doing what you're doing. It gives me a sense of pride. I swell with pride just to see the smile on my mother's face. And it was a great feeling. It was a great feeling.
It was a wealthy, idyllic town forced to confront racism, but when the school board presented its plan, it ignited a national firestorm.
Critical race theory.
Racism
in reverse.
False narrative.
Shame.
This is Southlake. All episodes available now.
Hey everybody, it's Hoda Kotb from The Today Show. I am so excited to tell you about my new podcast, Making Space with Hoda Kotb. I sit down with some incredible people and we'll hear some uplifting stories.
Listen to Making Space now on Apple Podcasts.
Still to come on the Channel 2 News. Well, the waters are certainly receding now.
Still too close to call. Lester Holt reporting from the
Ground Zero, as it's being referred to. It is, in fact, a taste of freedom.
The Haitian people know a little something about resiliency. What's the biggest risk right now?
Some of the troops who have been proud.
I want to welcome you to the first presidential debate. In fact, we've been told we can't go any farther. You with some resilient folks. Let me get a hint.
Does the White House think they have an Afghanistan problem or a COVID problem? Do you believe the abortion issue should reflect the will of the people or the will of the elected officials? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work or is this going to backfire?
If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today. Let's go. Is the Delta variant more dangerous to kids or is it simply more transmissible?
Maryland's Principal of the Year.
I served an amazing group of staff and students. Most people, if they ask what I do, I say I'm a professional competitive lumberjill. I cut and saw wood for speed in a competition atmosphere.
One, go.
It's not just beefy men, it's badass chicks. My name is Tracy Henning, and I am a lumberjill. A normal day in the middle of my season is wake up, get Drake ready, get him to daycare, go to work, try to do something with him that's like mommy, Drakey time, and then I go to 2 different gyms depending upon classes. I started competing in college in 1999. I started the professional circuit in 2001, and the coolest feeling was like little girls would come up and they'd be like, you do that? Like, I just thought guys did that. I'm like, yeah, like we can do it. And hopefully like little girls can see it and know that like they can do the same thing that the guys can. As far as training for events, if I'm not in the gym mentally, like going through the motions of the event, I'm out there doing the event. So I'm chopping, I'm sawing, I'm stock sawing, throwing the axe. The best way to practice is really just to do the event. It was a lot easier to prepare for competition without a toddler. When I first found out I was pregnant, I just gotten back from Sydney. I was on the US team, and I found out shortly after it was like my miracle pregnancy, so everything was scary. I was told I wasn't gonna have kids. I competed all the way up till October, and then he was born in December. So I pretty much did the entire season. I had to see my doctor more often, and she kept going, how much longer do you really wanna do this? And I'm like, until I can't anymore, until you tell me I cannot. Like that's part of a word.
That'd be considerable.
There's definitely like times where I would like break down and like question everything. Like maybe I should just give this up because I'm his mom and I'm supposed to be the one that is potty training him and teaching him things, and I want to do those things, but it's such a conflict because I still want to be Tracy Henning and Drake's mom, and sometimes that's like super hard. Balancing motherhood and marriage and everything is very difficult. My first competition back after having Drake, I got a single buck world record. It was so awesome because I was breastfeeding, I was like, holy crap, I'm competing, and I've got a teeny tiny baby, and then I walked out there and broke the world record.
She was for quarreling, we do not allow, and ours for rivers, the Lord say do bow.
In Hayward, I usually always make it to the finals, which is a huge accomplishment because you have to compete Thursday to qualify for Friday to qualify for the finals on Saturday. So, you know, one slip up is really all it takes, and then you're out of it. I'm still in it enough that I show up to a competition and people are like, oh great, she's here. Which is a good feeling. I don't want people not to like me, but I also don't want to just be looked over. I would say the earlier years of me coming here, I had a different headspace. I felt like I could focus more. I had my routines, I had my certain breakfasts, my warm-ups, my stretches, down to my clothing. Hi, buddy. And now it's like this. You gotta go back to Daddy for a little bit, Bob. Can you listen to me and go play on the playground, please? I love you. Have fun with Daddy. So it is different because I have like my mommy mode, and like it's really hard, like even when I was training, it's very hard for me to be like in it and angry and hungry and just wanting to rip stuff apart, and then a simple like smile from Drake will snap me out of it. I've had it where like I was like puffed up and ready, and then he's like, Mommy, can you help me put my shoes on? And it was just the sweetest thing, and I was just like, of course, baby, like I got you. You go from this like I'm gonna kill it to like, no big deal, buddy. I can feel the anxiety starting to build up as we get closer to the event. I like to get myself ready and set so that I'm not racing around right before the events. We've had enough family time, now it's time to start getting our equipment ready. My head right now is like starting to get the anxiety. I can feel it in my stomach, like okay, let's get going. Because today it's top 6, that's it. You have one shot to get number 1. There's no more second chances after this. I'm getting up there in age, and I feel like some people are like, when are you gonna retire? But there's still a fight left in me, so I'm not ready to retire. I think what keeps me going is that I think ultimately I want Drake to be able to be proud of me when he gets older. Like, my mom did this. My mom was awesome. She was on national stages. She won world records. I want him to be proud, and that's what keeps me going.
Thank you for doing this, Diane. Great to see you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me do this with you.
I was just telling you, I just got finished with episode 2 of Why the Last Man.
Okay.
It's a great premise to begin with. You're fantastic in it.
Thank you.
And I'm curious what you thought when this sort of idea came to you, just the concept, and we're going to do a series about it. Were you immediately interested, or did you need some explaining?
Well, I thought, you're asking me to, and now for something completely different, which is sort of fun because that's what I do. I get to try on different ideas, and that was what attracted me, was the amount of zeitgeisty, controversial, global world building, world recovering issues, and who knew how much life was going to be sort of brushing up very closely against art, or maybe the other direction, art against life.
He's whining about the First Amendment and calling for
unity. Yes, let's all join hands with the psychotics of America. And what would the expectations be placed upon a different gender of leadership? So it was almost like, I think maybe he was triggered by somebody saying, oh, if the world were only led by women.
Right.
And then you think, well, let's dig into that a little bit. What would it be like? So that's the journey we take in a quote-unquote woman-only world after the demise of 50% of the population of the Y chromosome.
You're doing everything you can for everyone you can. But ma'am, without men, there is no future.
I hear you, but we're just trying to survive the present. We call it Men, and the title, of course, says Why the Last Man, so it's not a big surprise. It's not a spoiler alert. But there's double entendres even on the title. Why? Well, what does that mean? Well, why is the first letter of my son's name? Oh, so your son survives. So not every man. And what is a man, by the way? How do we delineate what that term, gender roles, and what do we delineate by how would a woman behave in a leadership role? Would she be up to the task? But I wanted to be part of a world-building show and see where it was going to lead, because there's so much great source material in the graphic novels.
Like I say, I'm 2 episodes in, and I still have so many questions that I know you're not going to give away today. What is this thing? What exactly happened? How did your son survive? There's so much in the air still that will carry through the length of the series. I was interested to read that this was your first series as a series regular, where you're leading the show, which I thought, she's done a bunch of TV and a bunch of film, but she's never done this. Was there some appeal to doing, okay, this streaming thing that everyone's on, and I'm the lead, and we can see this through a bunch of episodes to tell a story? Much different than making a film, obviously.
Well, I'm a sucker for a dare. I can own that, and I wanted the experience of doing something completely different in my craft, which a lot of people have become extremely comfortable with, and that is not knowing what the writing is that you're setting yourself up to fulfill. One of the things that I love to do is to look at work in terms of the conversations that grow out of what were you thinking when you took this role? Why this? Why now? And it's so complicated to answer this question, but it's also very timely because of the many things that have occurred in the world. I mean, when I read this originally, well, first of all, I have Googled how many women have portrayed the US president. I had to do it. I was like, apparently I'm number 18.
Okay.
And
our 18th president.
We are going to have to keep making hard choices to try to help deal with the panic and the outrage.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And I have some very dear friends who have already portrayed this character, I mean, whatever we have in our mind's eye of the leader of the most important leader of the free world, and all of those, you know, self-aggrandizing, and rightfully so, the role of President of the United States has been a very big trigger point for a lot of people for a long time. And suffice it to say that when I was describing to people when we were shut down in the pandemic and we were dealing with so many changes in the world, global, and yet also very sort of tethered to who is president and what that looks like, and what does that say about our country.
Yeah, I mean, this was, as you say, written. These are based on books for people who don't know, after 9/11. I think the first one came out in 2002, and then there were more after that. But my gosh, it's about a pandemic. There are echoes of what happened in this country on January 6th, of civil society sort of disintegrating before our eyes.
The frame changes the art always. You could put a piece of art, even if it's not art. If you frame it in a certain way, people will say, well, that's art. It's easier sometimes to portray somebody who's really existed in history. Then you can say, well, she did it. I'm portraying something that really happened. And this seemed so far-fetched. So to play the president confronting it was very prescient, very zeitgeisty, even more than I bargained for when I signed on.
Hey everybody, it's Hoda Kotb from the Today Show. I am so excited to tell you about my new podcast, Making Space with Hoda Kotb. I sit down with some incredible people and we'll hear some uplifting stories.
Listen to Making Space now on Apple Podcasts.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go!
Is the Delta variant more dangerous to kids, or is it simply more transmissible?
Maryland's Principal of the Year.
I serve an amazing group of staff and students.
Does the White House think they have an Afghanistan problem or a COVID problem? Do you believe the abortion issue should reflect the will of the people or the will of the elected officials? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work, or is this going to backfire?
If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
What did you want to bring to a representation of a woman being president? Because there she is
Well,
standing.
I'm wearing my patriotic colors.
Yes, I noticed that. Very nice.
Well, of course, the humanity of it, the shared experience of it. The line of succession was decimated by the amount of death and the amount of grieving that she has. In order to be a good leader, you have to be the best follower, in a way. So she wasn't chosen. She wasn't voted in. So there's a lot of controversy around inheriting the job that she wasn't voted for, you know. Right. And so, hey, that's prescient too this year. Voting became very important, and the controversy around our votes considered authentic. The process, once you begin to have doubt enter into that conversation, now you've tilted the conversation into what is reality? It's the inner journey of this woman who is struggling to lead while she knows she's violated her ethics in order to do what's right for the world, which is, if you have a survivor, don't you want to try to make it possible for there to be more than just one survivor.
You've spent a bunch of time in the halls of Congress as an activist, and I want to talk to you about that in just a moment.
A small bunch, but
Yeah, but
legally,
I mean,
yes, I have been to the halls of Congress.
But you've been, yes, you have.
There's photos, so I know
Yes,
it
there
really
are.
did happen.
I've seen them.
Okay.
In my day job, I covered politics, and just the way you sort
Yes,
of
you
carry
did.
yourself, some Nancy Pelosi in the way you walk down the hall, and you're surrounded by your staff and your reporters. Did your relationships with people who serve, did you bring some of that to understand what it means to be in a position of power politically?
I have enough audacity to bring the little things that I believed in to the Congress people who were willing to meet with me and talk about the issues. And those were conservation issues about the health of our oceans at that point. There's always some legislation, right. that needs help to get the ear of the people who actually turn these things into law. That was my secret ambition when I was a child, was to become a lawyer who could help make laws. We need laws to catch up to the reality of our planet. We only have one.
When you do go to Capitol Hill and you knock on the door of Congress people, do you find they're at least more aware of the problem? Are they more receptive to it? It doesn't feel like some radical tree-hugging idea anymore, that like the middle of the country understands that this is a problem because it's happening in front of our eyes.
This is science and this is real, and people need to survive and live. And people are scared of the conversations.
So you've got a lot of fans who listen to you. What would you say to them about what we need to do different day to day? Forget the big macro, but how do we make a dent in this as we go about our lives?
Well, I mean, I didn't bring my book. I was going to bring it and show it to you. It's called What Can We Do? Actually, it's called What Can I Do? And it's Jane Fonda's book, and it's all about her experiences going out of her comfort zone and allowing her fame to mean something on this planet while she's here. And she wants us to all wake up and do what we can. And people are panicked and they don't say, what can I do? So she literally goes through, she's so practical. That's what I love about Jane, among many things I love about Jane. So sure, I went and got arrested for the cause of bringing attention to the conversation. But the conversation is manifold. It's not just recycle or get the plastics out of the ocean, or we have species that are leaving. And everybody gets so scared. They want to go hide under the table and have a cocktail. So do I. But is it going to be our children? So I want us to wake up together and hold hands and make it a positive movement. That's my dream.
I think one reason for optimism is that I have a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old who were born into and are growing up in a world where to them climate change is a fact. It's not a theory.
Yeah.
And it's what they're taught,
Yeah.
and they see it more on the news than certainly you or
But it's
I
not
did
been politicized.
growing up.
It hasn't been politicized
They
for
said,
them.
well, yes, this is happening. Here's what needs to happen. So maybe that's one reason for optimism, is this generational turnover.
Yeah.
But they don't have to be convinced of it.
Right.
Most of them, anyway.
Right. One thing Jane pointed out, and it's true, is that they make the individual feel bad, but they're supplying us with plastic everything. So we have to revisit and make things so they can be reusable and share more and include more people in our family, I think. And now I'm going to run for office.
I was going to say, this is it. This is your campaign launch right here. I'll vote for you.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today. Let's go. Is the Delta variant more dangerous to kids, or is it simply more transmissible?
Maryland's Principal of the Year.
I serve an amazing group of staff and students.
Do you feel like the bad guy in this? Why should they believe you when they know that people are getting in? Has it been worth it to make this trip? Do you feel like you're giving a green light to politicians? How do you explain why your case has become so important?
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Still to come on the Channel 2 News. Well, the waters are certainly receding now.
Still too close to call. Lester Holt reporting from the
Ground Zero, as it's being referred to. It is, in fact, a taste of freedom.
The Haitian people know a little something about resiliency. What's the biggest risk right now? Some of the troops who have been proud. I want to welcome you to the first presidential debate. In fact, we've been told we can't go any farther. You with some resilient folks, let me get a hint.
Make the most of your day with
Today in 30.
We give you a mix of everything you love about our show
in a mere 30 minutes.
Watch Today in 30 on your schedule, streaming every day on Today All Day.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
It was a wealthy, idyllic town forced to confront racism, but when the school board presented its plan, it ignited a national firestorm.
Critical race theory.
Racism in reverse.
False narrative.
Shame.
This is Southlake. All episodes available now.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
I didn't realize until you walked in here, but we're surrounded right now by Diane Lane memories. I mean, where should we begin as you
Midtown
look
girl.
out these windows?
Somebody had to get raised in the Midtown, right? I went to PS 59, which is on 57th Street. It's the heart of Midtown to me, and of course it's a Whole Foods now. There's so much I could say about that. But anyway, yeah, so that's the building where I had my first audition. It was the Gulf and Western building. When I say first audition, of a job I got, there were plenty of auditions that I've had that I've completely blocked out because who wants to remember those? Those don't count.
But this is A Little Romance, your
Little
first
Romance,
film.
1978.
Delightful spot, but hardly the top of the diplomatic ladder.
That's fantastic. What an incredible life you must have had, Monsieur Saint-Reine.
No, please, Julius.
For people who don't know, you'd been acting. I mean, you're 13, 14 years old. You'd been already acting since you were like 6 years old.
That is true.
What were the roles like leading up to, okay, this movie is my big moment, my breakout?
You know, it sounds like a joke when I say it, that I peaked when I was 10. But in some ways, I did because I had been traveling the world with the La Mama Experimental Theater Group, and it was the 70s, and it was very early 70s. 72 was the first tour. And so, I mean, that I was on as a kid. And so I was 7, and my parents didn't go. And my first passport, I had no front teeth, and it was considered very cute. And it's strange to grow up in the adult world when you're the kid in the room. Because if you know too much, you're considered precocious, right?
Yeah.
But they expect you to know a lot in order to fulfill the task and be a team player and be responsible and don't screw up and make the plane and don't lose your per diem. It was like joining the circus. It was like running away and touring the world with young people in the 70s. And it was a much more innocent time. So my dad and mom let me have that experience. I wouldn't have the courage as a parent to let my very young kid have that. I don't know. They were extraordinary people, honestly, to trust the universe as much as they did. It was a wonderful experience. Life by living, life by doing, life by traveling. Got to see so many different cultures.
I was thinking about you because I have a 14-year-old daughter. After A Little Romance becomes a hit, you're 14, you're on the cover of Time magazine. Laurence Olivier is saying you're the next Grace Kelly. What did all that feel like to a 14-year-old?
Well, I remember approaching the newsstand. We had newsstands, kiosks in the street, and they used to have, there weren't so many magazines then. So one magazine, you'd have 10 of them at a row, you know. And I guess 1978, I mean, you'd have, I'm not going to list the magazines, but Time magazine always had the upper right-hand corner as if it were dog-eared, and you'd see a photograph of some world leader. And in my case, it was Henry Kissinger. And I thought, this is really bizarre. This is a very surreal experience. I'm clearly having an out-of-body experience, and this too shall pass. And I thought about Birdcage Liner, and I thought, it's just paper. It's not going to. Don't allow this to mean anything to me, because I knew it wasn't about merit. I could trace back how it was that I wound up on the cover of Time magazine, and it wasn't because I had done anything. It was because I was an anomaly. And it was a curiosity to have people that young in the film industry as a new wave of culture and cinema. And I thought, oh, interesting. But I knew that it wasn't going to be. I mean, we're still dining out on the story literally because Time magazine usually is about a very meritorious person,
Sure.
right? And I felt a little embarrassed, honestly, because I was playing handball under the 59th Street Bridge thinking, I have no business being on the cover of Time magazine. This is crazy. I'm sure my dad was thrilled, you know. That's my kid, you know.
Of course.
But I was sitting there going, please don't ask me to live up to that.
But where did you get the wisdom to have that perspective at 14 years old? Because it seems...
Growing up around adults, probably.
Right.
No filter from people around me. But the tempered innocence, you lose innocence as you grow, and then you start to value your own innocence. And that was working with George Roy Hill. That's what he said about his movies. That they're always about innocence, the loss of innocence of the main character. So he saw the theme in his own work. That's cool. When you're not, he didn't have to audition for his jobs. You could create your own job. It's different when you're an actress. You sort of go, is this going to be the one? Do I feel like I want to do this? It's different than writing it and having a vision for the end product. I'm sort of a tapestry thread, you know, and how they edit it and how they put the music and the credits and how they promote it. It's all out of my hands, and I like it that way, because if I were in control, then I'd have to take all the blame. You know, it's not worth the credit. It's too big a risk.
That's so interesting, right?
It is interesting.
Yeah.
Because you could say, well, what's the next one?
Right.
Next.
Right.
It's okay.
I mean, it feels like watching your career, even to now, you do have this perspective on what it means to be a movie star. I'm sure you don't like that term, or a celebrity, and that it doesn't really interest you that much.
Well, it does in terms of what people like Jane Fonda have done with it. Meaning, if you live a long time, and you can add, you know, something to humanity in terms of what you've done with your fame.
Right.
That I think is.
But the
valued.
things you went through as a child, becoming a child star can ruin people, obviously. And then you're in Coppola movie, they push you through, and you have this incredible young career, but you survive it, and then some, and you're being nominated.
Isn't it interesting that they use the word survive?
Yeah, well, because there are some
because
people
it is a
who don't.
gauntlet of potential bad choices that you're not even supposed to be aware enough to make good or bad choices. It's all luck, or some person in the background who's a marionette and you're the puppet, and there's strings being pulled that allow you to have good fortune compared to somebody else. One of the things my dad said to me as he knew he was dying, he said, you know, isn't it enough, Diane? Don't you think it's somebody else's turn? And because he's brutal. My dad was famously brutal, hence an acting teacher.
Right.
Cut you asunder, right, in a way that nobody else can, or you wouldn't allow anybody else to. And it was almost like saying, are you going to keep going? I knew he was daring me to keep after it. He wanted me to have one of those lifer type careers.
And you have. Right? I
Yeah,
mean, look,
but
here you are.
Am I supposed to go another 30 years?
It's like, so what's the secret if somebody's watching right now to keep that ball in the air the way you have, to have had all these phases where you go...
Being open to change.
Really? Yeah.
I think so. Being open to change. I mean, the human body is very humbling, and if you're a woman, you certainly are aware of the way change is part of your fate, because there's only a window of time within which you can procreate. And that is such a blessing. And it is also a measure of worth that men don't experience. And it is also a tremendous gift because you, in some ways, get to be born fresh. I gotta watch my terms because my grandmother was a Pentecostal preacher. I don't want to get into trouble. But you can be born freshly in your own self-understanding by not internalizing any longer the male gaze. Unless you want to.
Right.
unless it's fun for you now, and you can do it your way, on your terms. And so I'm watching women these days, and I'm very heartened by the diversity of representation that is accessible to young people today. But see, it takes strength. You have to be able to come up against all these things that want you to internalize them and make you an insecure person. So every little lesson that you get and being able to change and adapt and not let it define you is the goal for women, I think.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
Hey everybody, it's Hoda Kotb from The Today Show. I am so excited to tell you about my new podcast, Making Space with Hoda Kotb. I sit down with some incredible people and we'll hear some uplifting stories.
Listen to Making Space now on Apple Podcasts.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
You've been consistent. Was it gratifying in that run, sort of perfect storm, unfaithful, under the Tuscan sun, to just have this, people knew you from a little romance and they knew you along the way, and then here she is again, you know?
John Cusack and I made a film together, and we sat in the trailer at one point, and he said something that I'm going to quote, and he's going to have to forgive me, because maybe he would disagree with himself at this point. And there were these books on the table, and he says, I think we're the coffee table book actors. We make everybody feel super comfy, cozy. We've been there since they were 12. They are now whatever age they are, and we're still here, and they know they're okay because we're still here. And I thought, I can work with that. I thought, I'm not ashamed of that at all. I bring it because we want to see what else you got. And that's part of the reason I chose this show, is because it's so completely fresh and different for me as a show, even if I were just watching it. So to think of myself in it, get a little squirrely, but that's the fun of it. You're supposed to do the work that scares you.
It's funny, when I interviewed him for this show a couple of months ago, he was saying sometimes he'll be watching TV and he'll come across a movie on cable, and he said, it's like looking at your old yearbook photos. You go, who is that guy? What is up with your hair? Who is that guy? You know?
Fun.
Do you ever come across your old stuff when you're watching TV, or do you?
Well, I call it my young stuff.
Yeah,
so it cuts both ways. I mean, sure, I do, and I always want to break the mold. I mean, when you're an actor, you want to be able to disappear into something as much as you're allowed, or have the courage, or can pull off. I think it's an incredibly noble profession, and I did not used to think that. I used to really poo-poo my profession because I grew up in it.
Yeah.
You know, wherever you grow up, you have to leave. And this pandemic, actors got me through it. And of course the crew and everybody that makes actors shine. But they're the ones on camera. Everything that makes that moment possible, yes. But the actors get us through it. And the comfort we have taken from watching the shows. But my hat's off to the profession, because we're able to increase our compassion and have diverse experiences vicariously and expand our imagination and our sense of what's possible for ourselves. We feel seen. They're championing something that we wish we could champion, so we have champions now. It's an amazing craft, and I see why so many people want to break in, and I'm glad for my daughter, because there's a lot more a lot more access.
She's into it, right?
She's into it.
And you've encouraged her?
You know, I discouraged her.
Oh, you did?
I think most people in my profession discourage their offspring. Because
you know too much.
I know too much. And she has seen behind the curtain in Oz, as I call it. And after graduating Gallatin at NYU, and after her journalist education, this is the real storytelling in a way. In a way. And I think I have the sense that she's going to morph into writing things. That's every parent has a fantasy they project onto their kids. So forgive me, Eleanor. But I think she's got it in her to be sort of I always say you can replace an actor. They're the most replaceable thing in a way, but you can't replace the writing. That is, if it's not on the page, how do you expect that to get to the stage?
Right.
It's got to be in the writing. And I think she's incredibly gifted. And of course, she can act, and she's beautiful. That's fine. But I still think that, write something for actors to do forever. Then to me, that's the highest height.
Well, congratulations on the series. It's
Thank
outstanding,
you.
and it's just fun to walk through your career. Because it's a pleasure.
Honored to speak with you today.
Nice to see you.
Hello, Today All Day. Up next on #Cooking, Samadata making 2 protein-packed recipes with a pantry staple, canned chickpeas. First, she's going to use the chickpeas to make a hearty dinner with a chana masala and roasted sweet potatoes. For dessert, she's going to turn the legume into ooey gooey chocolatey brownies. We promise you won't even taste the chickpeas.
Just get out your aggression on these sweet potatoes, okay? If you have any stress in your life, don't take it out on your friends. Make this recipe. Take it out on these potatoes. My life would not run without chickpeas. Whether in savory recipes or sweet, chickpeas are truly the legume loves of my life. I guess you could really say I'm a #chickpea chick. I'm going to show you 2 of my favorite recipes to use chickpeas, my chana masala stuffed sweet potatoes, and a delicious and surprising chickpea brownie. I know, once you make these recipes, you're going to love chickpeas as much as I do. Chana masala, sometimes called chole, is a spiced chickpea curry that my mom used to make for me all the time when I was growing up. It's one of my favorite Indian vegetarian dishes, so today I thought I'd get a little creative and stuff the chana masala inside some baked sweet potatoes. So, if baked potatoes are your vibe and spiced chickpeas are your vibe, then this is the recipe for you. I've got all of my cute sweet potatoes here. They're clean, so I'm just gonna poke them with a fork so they can release steam when they bake. Don't mistake your hand for a potato, okay? Promise me you won't do that. Keep your eyes on your goal. All right, I definitely did some damage here. Now I'm just gonna rub these potatoes with some olive oil and then sprinkle with some salt. These potatoes are at the spa currently. They're loving their lives. They're about to go into the sauna. I only find myself funny. The olive oil is gonna allow the sweet potatoes to get nice and crisp on the outside. I love eating the skin too, it's really yummy. Now, just a little sprinkle of salt. We can't forget to season everything. We need flavor everywhere. My cutie little potatoes are ready. They're going in the oven 40 to 45 minutes at 425 degrees. Now that my sweet potatoes are safely in the oven, they're secure in there, I am gonna start on my chana masala. First thing I'm gonna do is dice my onions. Just clearing my workspace, nothing to see here. I love using onions in basically everything, but onions, garlic, and ginger are just key aromatics in Indian cooking. You really can't have Indian cooking without them. Now for my garlic, just gonna mince it. A mince is really, really fine, so you just wanna get all of that delicious garlicky flavor out. You know you did this right if you smell like garlic for 3 days. We're just getting at all of that flavor. Now I'm just gonna use some ginger. A really easy way to peel ginger is to use a spoon. You can just use it to scrape back that little peel, like so. See how easy that is? Super easy. And I'm using only an inch here. Now I'm just gonna mince my ginger up super fine. I wanna extract all that flavor, just so it matches the garlic too. Okay, my onions, my garlic, my ginger, we're all ready for the hot oil. So now I'm just gonna heat some oil in my medium pot until it shimmers, and then I'll add all of my aromatics. Heating up my olive oil in my pot. Once the oil shimmers, then I know it's ready for the onions. Taking a little peek, the olive oil is shimmering, so it's time to add my onions. I want to cook these onions in the olive oil until they're tender, translucent, and starting to brown around the edges. I want to get some color on them before I add the ginger and the garlic. And the reason that we're not adding the garlic and the ginger in with the onions is because those take a lot less time to cook. So we want to get the onions going, and then we'll add the ginger and garlic so those two don't burn. I think these onions are ready to meet their garlic and ginger companions. Garlic. Ginger. That smell. We want to cook the garlic and ginger in with the onions for about 1 to 2 minutes so it smells aromatic and fragrant. Get rid of that raw smell. This is my masala box, my masala dabba, my prized possession. I have literally never lived a single day in my kitchen without it. It's how I store all of my favorite spices. It's also how my mom taught me to store all of my spices. Let me show you a little reveal. Look at that. These are all my favorite spices that I use. And these are also the ones that are gonna go in my chana masala. My onions, garlic, and ginger smell amazing, they look amazing, which means it's time for my masala. I'm going to add some of my favorite masala spices here. I like to add cayenne for some heat, for some spice. Adding turmeric, one of my favorite spices. A lot of cumin, I absolutely love it. Time for some coriander powder. Adding that straight in. Did you know that coriander powder is just the seeds of cilantro ground up? Now you know. Now I'm just gonna add a little bit of salt and pepper. So I want to roast my masala spices until that raw masala smell goes away. We want to toast it, we want it to smell fragrant and aromatic. And finally, my little secret ingredient, amchur powder, or dry mango powder. Amchur powder is so tangy, it's tart, it adds a little something extra into this chana masala. Adding amchur powder was definitely my mom's tip, so thank you, Mom, for making my chana masala a lot better than it was before. I wish you could smell it, but you can't. So you're just gonna have to make it. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules, but I am making them a little bit here. Okay, my masala smells amazing, smells super aromatic. Now I'm gonna add my tomato paste. Here. I wanna cook the tomato paste in with my onions and spices until it deepens in color. Now I'm gonna add my tomatoes. You can use fresh tomatoes for sure, but I'm using canned and crushed tomatoes because I think convenience is the most gorgeous thing. My tomatoes are looking delicious. Delish. Now I'm gonna add my vegetable broth. Okay, I've brought everything to a boil. Now I'm just gonna reduce to a simmer and cook uncovered for 5 minutes. We have to add a very important friend to the party, our chickpeas. I could never forget about them. How could you think that? Adding them straight in here. Get them really up in that gravy. Now that the chickpeas have found a really nice home in here, I just want to simmer this together for 20 minutes. I want the gravy to become thick and the chickpeas to really infuse in with all of that masala. Make sure you cover this while it simmers.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
Do you feel like the bad guy in this? Why should they believe you when they know that people are getting in? Has it been worth it to make this trip? Do you feel like you're giving a green light to politicians? How do you explain why your case has become so important?
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Controversy in South Lake tonight after teens posted a racist video.
It was a wealthy, idyllic town forced to confront racism.
My children were told Rosa Parks is dead. You all have to sit in the back of the bus.
But when the school board presented its plan, this small town fight ignited a national firestorm.
Critical race theory. Racism in reverse.
False narrative of rampant racism.
Shame.
This is South Lake, an NBC News podcast. All episodes available now. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, 20 minutes has passed. I think it's time we take a peek at my chana masala. I mean, look at that. Look how thick it is. It looks delicious. It smells even better. There is one more thing that I do like to add in my chana masala. It's just a little sneaky spinach. Nothing to see here, just some sneaky spinach. You won't even see it or taste it. I just like to sneak in some cute greens in there from time to time, you know? Just adding a handful. I'm just gonna tear it, roughly. No science to that here. And I'm gonna stir it into my chana masala until it wilts. Speaking of something green, I do like to add a little bit of cilantro in here as well. Something zesty, herby, brings all of the flavors to light. I keep those tender stems, but I'll remove the thick stems like this. This doesn't have to be added to our chana masala. All this talk about cilantro has me craving something, my cilantro mint chutney. I'm gonna show you how to make that. I'm just gonna let this hang out while I do that. Let me just start off by saying that I love chutney. A life without chutney is one that I just don't wanna live. If you're not eating chutney, you are not living. Chutney is super popular in Indian food, especially Indian street food. I find that it's zesty, it's bright, it's usually with a lot of herbs, a lot of spices, a lot of lemon or something acidic. It's super delicious and really tangy. Let's make my favorite cilantro mint chutney. This, by the way, is so easy to make. You're just gonna throw everything in your blender. Just gonna get my cilantro ready. Again, just like in my chana masala, where it's okay to keep those tender stems on the cilantro, I'm just gonna keep the tender ones but remove the thicker ones. These are a bit more bitter, so we don't want these in our chutney. Like I said, super simple recipe, gonna add everything to our blender. I don't know why these spatulas are in here. They wanted their 15 seconds of fame. Remove them. I'm gonna add my cilantro straight into my blender. Like that. Mint is super floral, it's very bright. So I find that it complements the cilantro really well. And anything you add this in is just gonna really awaken the flavors. If the flavors were sleeping, this chutney is gonna awaken the flavors. I love some heat, I love some spice. So we're gonna be adding a full green chili here. If you want it to be less spicy, you can de-seed it, but I will not be partaking in that. I want all the spice. Just gonna trim it, pop it straight in there. Yes, I live life a little risky. It's just how I do. Just juicing a fresh lemon in. Nothing like some fresh lemon juice. It's gonna really brighten all of those flavors up, add something a bit acidic, which we need with all of those zesty herbs. Now for my spices, I'm gonna add some salt and a little cumin. My precious box. Little cumin. And some salt. Now I'm just gonna add a little bit of water to help get the blender going. You can feel free to add more water as you blend, just if you need to get the blender moving a bit more. Texture looks great. Oh, it smells so good too. With that, as you can see, some nice texture. I wanted this to be a little thinner because I will be drizzling it on top of my chana masala stuffed sweet potatoes. I'm gonna set this aside, go check on my potatoes, and then I'm gonna get ready to plate.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now. Make the most of your day with
Today in 30. We give you a mix of everything you love about our show in a mere 30 minutes.
Watch Today in 30 on your schedule, streaming every day on Today All Day.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
Do you feel like the bad guy in this? Why should they believe you when they know that people are getting in? Has it been worth it to make this trip? Do you feel like you're giving a green light to politicians? How do you explain why your case has become so important?
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Hey everybody, it's Hoda Kotb from The Today Show. I am so excited to tell you about my new podcast, Making Space with Hoda Kotb. I sit down with some incredible people and we'll hear some uplifting stories.
Listen to Making Space now on Apple Podcasts.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now. For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
I mean, it is literally oozing sweetness. Look at that caramelization. Okay, so I have to tell you something. Chana masala is typically served with roti, naan, or rice, but I wanted to get a little fun here, a little creative, so I'm gonna stuff my chana masala into my sweet potatoes. And I'll take a bath now. Thank you. Okay, I think we're ready to plate. I think I'm ready to eat. That I know for sure. I am gonna get this potato right here. That is the one that I want. This is the chosen one. Look at all of that sugar that's just caramelized around the edges. Okay, you need to look at this. Do you see this? Do you see it? Okay, onto my plate we go. Love a sweet potato. Love, literally love. Time to bring my chana masala into the picture. I'm gonna move these guys aside. I will see you later. Time for you. Does everyone talk to their food like I do? Maybe not. Okay. I'm gonna cut my sweet potato. Just create a little slit right here. Just a little home for that chana masala to sit in. Look at that steam. Perfect. Now it's time for my chana masala. That smells so good. Gonna get a little bit of everything, that thick gravy, the chickpeas, my sneaky spinach. Straight inside. It fits perfectly. Little home for my chana masala. Great. Okay. Now, did not forget about my cilantro chutney. This is gonna add some brightness, some freshness, and a little bit of spice. Now, just for a little bit of glam, we're gonna add some chopped, or I should say torn cilantro. A little on the plate, just to, you know, aesthetics. I can assure you that my mom has never done this before, so I have to show her a picture. I wanna see what she's gonna think. She will be proud of this chana masala though, because that looks pretty good. Mom, I hope you're proud. That looks so pretty. Aesthetically speaking, this looks amazing. Can I eat this now? I think yes, I can eat this now. I mean, this literally can do no wrong. It's hearty, it's satisfying, it's filling. It's very balanced. I think I really leveled up baked potatoes today. Perfect weeknight, dinner, even lunch. That caramelization on that sweet potato is just getting me. I just can't even handle it. Looks so good. We all think of chickpeas in something like a chana masala, right? But here's the secret, I really like to bake with them in my desserts. I know you're questioning my life choices right now, but just you wait. I'm gonna go get the ingredients for my chickpea brownies.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
Make the most of your day with Today All Day. Get closer to all your friends at Today in a whole new way.
Today in
30. We give you a mix of everything you love about our show
in a mere 30 minutes.
Shop today with Jill Martin.
We're helping you shop like never before.
The latest styles and biggest names. Today Food.
Things are heating up in the Today All Day kitchen.
Cooking essentials and recipe inspiration.
Get ready. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm so ready.
Only on Today All Day.
Do you feel like the bad guy in this? Why should they believe you when they know that people are getting in? Has it been worth it to make this trip?
Do you feel like you're giving a green light to politicians?
How do you explain why your case has become so important?
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
These chickpea brownies are one of the most popular recipes on my blog. And because I know you're wondering, I know you're asking the question, can you taste the chickpeas? All I have to say to you is no. All they do is simply create an irresistible fudgy texture. And with chocolate involved, everyone wins. So let's get to it. First thing I'm gonna add in here is some almond butter. I like this because it's kind of rich, it's nutty, it adds a lot to these brownies. Now we're gonna add my chickpeas, my most valuable pantry player, my MVPP, my chickpeas. Make sure before you add these chickpeas into your blender, you rinse them super, super well. And just remember, the chickpeas don't add any flavor to these brownies. All they do is help to create a really nice fudgy texture and make it really satiating when you eat it. Now I'm gonna go for some vanilla extract. Delish. To sweeten these chickpea brownies up, I'm gonna use some coconut sugar. Beautiful. Now for my flour in these brownies, I'm not actually using a bunch of it at all. I'm gonna use some almond flour. It's kind of dense, it's delicious. It's also gonna help create a nice and fudgy brownie. What I like about almond flour is that it's just almonds, right? So that creates some really good texture and also a really nice nutty finish. Okay, we've gotta have a little bit of cocoa powder. I'm using unsweetened cocoa powder here. This is really important. We don't want anything added to our cocoa powder. We want it to be pure. And we're already adding sugar to our brownie, so no need to buy a sweetened cocoa powder. To help everything blend, I'm gonna add some almond milk now and a little bit later too. Are you ready for the blender brownies of your dreams? Are you ready to not make a smoothie and make brownies instead? Same. Okay, here we go. Perfection, perfection. I'm gonna scrape the sides down, give it another little blend. You want it to be super, super smooth. You literally never know there are chickpeas in here. It's actually kind of scary. Okay, you gotta look at this texture. You gotta look at this texture. Come on now, that's just not fair. Super velvety, really smooth. Just needs one thing, chocolate chips, because it's me. And why would I make a brownie without chocolate chips? It just doesn't seem right. Make sure you remove this from the blender before you add your chocolate chips so you don't blend up some chocolate chips into the air. No, that is not speaking from personal experience. I'm gonna fold in my chocolate chips. I do not measure this with anything but my heart and my soul. Now it's time to transfer it into my pan. Gotta get a shot of this. The texture is luscious. I know, there's chickpeas in here. Isn't that crazy? You really could fool a lot of people. I'm not saying do that. I'm not saying trick people, but like, I'm just saying you could. Have you ever wondered what the difference is between a chickpea and a garbanzo bean? Well, I have news for you. There is no difference. They're the same thing. Garbanzo is just the Spanish term for a chickpea. This just looks nice, honestly, plus a little extra chocolate never hurt anyone. I gave up. Okay, we are ready for the oven. Going in 350 degrees for 35 to 40 minutes, and I'm so excited for their journey. My pride and joy, my chickpea brownies. I've let them cool for 25 minutes. This is important because it lets them firm up. And when they come out of the oven, you know that they're done when they start to pull away from the sides of the pan. Look at how easy parchment paper makes my life. All right. I mean, look at how fudgy that is. Delish. All that has to happen, it's time for me to eat it. Okay, I think I'm ready to taste. Oh, it's so fudgy. Mmm. This is my party trick, putting chickpeas into brownies. I just need to take a picture of that interior, that fudgy bit. It's too good. It is crazy how you can't taste the chickpeas. They just add to that really nice fudgy texture. We've got some rich chocolate, so they taste super decadent, but they're also super satiating. And so fudgy, melts in your mouth. The extra chocolate chips, nobody's mad about that. I'm not mad about it. I hope this inspired you to use chickpeas in new and fun, unique ways, even baking them into brownies. Now you know why they're so versatile, and also why they're the legume love of my life. You feel good? Almost. Turn one more time. Yes.
Truly, just by telling someone, hey, we believe in you and we want to give you an opportunity, the confidence that comes from that. Oftentimes, a month of being here, their confidence has at least doubled.
Our goal is to be a stepping stone to help them get to their ultimate goal.
I'm Julie Sullivan-Lose, co-founder of Ground Up Nut Butters.
And I'm Carolyn Cesario, co-founder of Ground Up Nut Butters.
Check you guys out. Teamwork happening over here. Our mission at Ground Up is to employ women overcoming adversity and provide job skills training.
One more? Okay, I think I can fit one more in.
How many almonds is it? Do you guys know? I can pull.
I don't have my phone out.
Oh, plenty. So women come from backgrounds of homelessness, battling mental illness, transitioning out of the sex industry, and so out of incarceration. We have a 6 to 9 month employment training program, and we partner with different organizations in the city and get referrals for the women that we hire. And truly, success looks different for each person that does join our team. And what's unique is it started with the mission and vision first before the product was even around. So I was living in Uganda overseeing a training program for about 160 women doing paper bead jewelry work. And I just saw the power of providing someone an opportunity and giving them an income and the impact that that could have not only in their life, but that could trickle down into their family and their community. So I moved back home to Portland, dead set on starting a company. And I really believe that business is a powerful tool for social good. So I knew that I wanted to start a for-profit business.
I was running marketing at Seiko Designs, an ethical fashion brand, and we hired on Julie to do customer care for us. At the time, I was making nut butters on the side of my job without any intention to do anything more with it because I didn't want to start just another food business. Don't get me wrong, our product is great, but I didn't feel like that was enough motivation to actually start a business. And when I met Julie, and she had this passion for an employment training program vision, which really was very similar to the company that we were both working for, so we both already kind of had a heart for that. When we met and she was looking for a product, it was just kind of like fate that the two came together.
We had only known each other for 3 months, and then we were like, let's do this. Yeah.
We really hit the ground running, and the two of us were very type A go-getters, so we were just I think it was March, and we were like, cool, by June we'll be in all the farmers markets in Portland, and we'll see how this goes. Little did we know you have to sign up for those markets in November of the prior year. It's very competitive in Portland. But yeah, so we just hit the ground running and started selling in as many places as we could.
All the while making it out of Carolyn's home with small food processors.
Yeah.
I think we made
accepting payments via Venmo.
Yep, I think we made about 2 jars every 30 minutes, so really efficient.
Yeah, exactly. I hand wrote the label, every single label, which is why our jars still now have my handwriting on them, because it's an ode to that.
All of our nut butters are peanut, dairy, and gluten-free, just sweetened with honey. We don't use any other added sugars or oils, so that's super different than a lot of products on the market that have added palm oil or sugars in them. You can pick up a label and be like, oh, I recognize every ingredient in this jar. We don't want to put anything on the market that we ourselves wouldn't be eating every day.
I think being a woman in business, it can be difficult because it's hard for people to take you seriously. You get a lot of people that are trying to give you advice and talk down to you and kind of questioning what you're doing. And I think it was really hard in the beginning.
Especially being like, you're crazy, you're gonna start a business, and also from the forefront, you're gonna start with a training program working with women overcoming adversity. And to us, there's no other way. And so I think to really be able to show other businesses and to show the community there's another way of doing business, and it's powerful. It's not only powerful for us, but it's powerful for customers, that they can be a part of the story and they can pick up a jar and say like, hey, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, but I get to be part of something bigger.
My name is Jamel Dawson, and I work for Ground Up PDX. I heard about Ground Up through Central City Concern. They're an agency that helps people with barriers for employment.
Yeah, I do this till 5 o'clock. I love it.
I lost my home in August of 2018. I mean, I was living from couch to couch, and I couldn't get a job, and I was in another lifestyle, and I just got tired of it, but I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. Julie and Carolyn are encouraging, uplifting, and very positive. They give me hope. Every morning when I see them, they just make me smile because it's another day here. I help in the kitchen on Tuesday and Wednesdays. I help Phil. I'm pretty fast at it. I love it. This place has given me confidence because I was in a dark place last year. I didn't have any hope. This gave me confidence that I can do something different. And I'm looking forward to anything that comes after this.
Oh, I didn't realize we had some over here.
Yeah, I put some on that end for you and then some on this end.
My name is Tiffany Christensen, and I work for Ground Up. I'm the fulfillment supervisor, and I'm a production assistant. So I mainly focus on online orders that are coming in. 2 days a week I get to help out in the kitchen and doing production. I love being in the kitchen. That's where I started. So anytime I can get back into the kitchen, I'm happy. Before I started working at Ground Up, I was living in a shelter for about 6 months. And the whole time I was trying to find employment, and I was also battling my mental health. It was hard, very, very hard. And when Ground Up came, I felt like I was ready to try to start working again because it was very hard to look for a job. Nobody wanted to hire anyone that was living in a shelter, which is very sad. Ground Up has given me confidence. Once I started, my whole attitude on life changed.
So creamy.
So much better with the new almonds. Wow.
Yeah, so much better.
That's great.
People really do care about our product and love our product and love what we do. It makes me proud to work hard, and that has helped me. There's more purpose to it. Whereas jobs I've had in the past, I didn't really feel like I was doing anything meaningful. It was going to work and then coming home. A very endless cycle of pain and misery. And that didn't help any of my mental health at all. So that's why Ground Up is so great with all the positivity and the helping others, the purpose. It's a wonderful feeling.
Good morning, team. How's everyone doing?
We're doing 5 batches of chunky, which we've already done 1, and we did some of the smooth as well, which...
Julie and Carolyn are huge in my life, and there's nothing I can do or say that is ever going to be enough for my gratitude for them. I would love to be just half of what they are, their attitude, just to let us know that it's okay, everything's going to be all right. Life, there's mistakes, it's no big deal. Just learn from it and keep going. So I'm getting chills just talking about it. Sorry, it tears me up. Give me a second. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. You don't need to be sorry.
It's happy tears.
It begins with 5 pounds, it turns into 10 pounds, it turns into 50 pounds a day.
Yeah, and they're ordering every 2 weeks. That's
yeah.
the goal. No.
Ground up on 3. 1, 2, 3. Ground up! Giving back to the community is really part of our DNA at Ground Up and truly a part of both Carolyn and I.
Personally, I believe if you're going to be working at something, 50 hours a week, why not have it be something that's helping to do good? If I'm going to spend so much of my time putting energy into growing something, I want it to also be helping other people. So I guess in that sense, it's partially selfish what we're doing, because I think we both get fulfillment out of seeing women on our team grow and thrive in this environment. But it's also clearly helping them in a lot of ways as well.
We truly believe, and I truly believe, that just being that drop in the ocean, just like helping one person, that trickle-down effect is powerful. It's like by buying a jar, you can be a part of the story. We get really excited to share with other companies about what it's like to have a job training program. And I think we're also, though, very honest with others about, it's a lot more work, it's a lot more time, it's a lot more patience, but it is 100% worth it.
Still to come on the Channel 2 News. Well, the waters are certainly receding now.
Still too close to call. Lester Holt reporting from the
Ground Zero, as it's being referred to. It is, in fact, the taste of freedom.
The Haitian people know a little something about resiliency. What's the biggest risk right now?
Some of the troops who have been proud.
I want to welcome you to the first presidential debate. In fact, we've been told we can't go any farther. You with some resilient folks, let me get a hint.
Make the most of your day with
Today in 30. We give you a mix of everything you love about our show in a mere 30 minutes.
Savannah and Hoda bring you what you must know. The biggest moments of the morning.
One Republic!
Exclusive interviews.
Why did it work for you?
You're right. I am more talented than the rest.
And important headlines.
Major medical news this morning.
Watch Today in 30 on your schedule. Streaming every day on Today All Day.
Controversy in Southlake tonight after teens posted a racist video.
It was a wealthy, idyllic town forced to confront racism.
My children were told Rosa Parks is dead. You all have to sit in the back of the bus.
But when the school board presented its plan, this small town fight ignited a national firestorm.
Critical race theory. Racism in reverse.
False narrative of rampant racism.
Shame. This is Southlake, an NBC News podcast. All episodes available now. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Somewhere along the way, we all need help. At some point in your life, you have needed assistance from someone to get where you're at. It's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to give help, and it's all going to come back around.
The Little Free Pantry movement is kind of a grassroots solution to address immediate and local needs. Little Free Pantries essentially help neighbors feed neighbors. The movement never really took off in the Seattle area. And then when COVID hit in March, my husband and I built 6 pantries and offered them out for free to our neighborhood. And that's when we got this swell of interest from people asking for more of these pantries. I am a personal chef. I started my business 14 years ago, and food insecurity is something I've always thought about deeply. Food insecurity could be someone who is skipping a meal once or twice a week so that they can get to that next paycheck. It's a real thing in this country.
Work was slow with the pandemic. Everything kind of stopped for me. So I was looking for a way to help and give back, especially with the extra time I had. You know, I like to build stuff, and so I thought, hey, that's something I could do.
You never know who's struggling. Sometimes it is your next door neighbor. And so I really think about how much dignity comes with food. Like, food's a right, it's not a privilege. You should be able to walk up to a pantry and grab something and not feel guilty about it. I think that's what some people need. They just need a little boost.
Food, you know, not only just feeds our bodies. Food also nourishes our souls. And if we can start educating people on the culturally relevant foods that can be placed into pantries, that also offers an access point that food banks have a difficult time doing because they're working in such large quantities of food. Spaghetti and tomato sauce may be relevant to one neighborhood, but fish sauce and curry may be more appropriate for another.
During this pandemic, I've seen a lot more neighbor to neighbor, just really small kindnesses that I think people were maybe too busy to think about before. That's one of the things that I think it's kind of like blessing in disguise, you know, and I hope that that continues past this, that we don't like just go back to normal.
Still to come on the Channel 2 News. Well, the waters are certainly receding now.
Still too close to call. Lester Holt reporting from the
Ground Zero, as it's being referred to. It is, in fact, the taste of freedom.
The Haitian people know a little something about resiliency. What's the biggest risk right now? Some of the troops who have been proud. I want to welcome you to the first presidential debate. In fact, we've been told we can't go any farther. You with some resilient folks, let me get a hint.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
It was a wealthy, idyllic town forced to confront racism, but when the school board presented its plan, it ignited a national firestorm.
Critical race theory.
Racism, it refers
false narrative.
Shame.
This is Southlake. All episodes available now.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
Does the White House think they have an Afghanistan problem or a COVID problem? Do you believe the abortion issue should reflect the will of the people or the will of the elected officials? The vaccine mandate, is this going to work or is this going to backfire? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're going to do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life in primetime and streaming live. It's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
Make the most of your day with
Today in 30. We give you a mix of everything you love about our show in a mere 30 minutes.
Watch Today in 30 on your schedule, streaming every day on Today All Day.
Lin-Manuel Miranda made his Broadway debut with In the Heights, a story about where he grew up, Washington Heights, Manhattan. His older sister Luce cherishes the fun they had here as kids.
We've lived here for over 30 to 35 years, and it's such a fun, rich, vibrant community. In the show, you have people from all walks of life, and that's what you get.
And is it true you guys grew up playing on this very playground right here?
Yes. My parents literally live up the hill, and we'd come down and play. This is our park.
In 2017, the Miranda family was being honored by the community, and their father Luis had the perfect setting for it.
We all agreed, let's go to Payson Playground.
But the park didn't look the same as they remembered it.
I looked around and it was a little run down. There were weeds. It just looked unkept and not taken care of.
I called Mino and I said, do you guys do stuff in parks?
Mino Laura is a close family friend and founder of the People's Theater Project, a community-based organization providing social engagement through performance art to more than 5,000 immigrant children.
I was breastfeeding when I got that phone call. I had a 4-month-old baby, and it was just very exciting.
With the support of the Miranda family, together they cleaned up the park and launched their first summer camp program in 2017.
This camp is just such a joyous occasion. So it involves young children and theater making, and really exploring and investigating what our community is, and also what are some things that they maybe want to change.
Adventurous Alex.
Adventurous Alex.
Throughout the summer, kids sign up for free 2-week sessions where they create a play from scratch, learning every bit of the process. And many of the kids keep coming back.
Tell me about the play that you helped make. What was it about?
It was about a boy who was doing ballet and was getting bullied because they think that boys can't do ballet, that they have to do sports like basketball and soccer.
And what's the message in that play?
That no matter you're a boy or a girl, you can do whatever you want.
What did you guys want people to learn from your play about global warming?
What global warming is and how you should stop it.
Do you ever stop and think maybe you're teaching the next Lin-Manuel Miranda?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Lin-Manuel has been such an inspiration to me as well, but to all of our kids. And I think there's so many more voices that are needed.
And even if they don't all go on to make Broadway history, Louise hopes their time at camp prepares them for something even more important.
That they become good people, that they become tolerant people. When they grow up and pass by the playground and see that it needs some work, just like my daughter did.
Do you feel like the bad guy in this? Why should they believe you when they know that people are getting in? Has it been worth it to make this trip?
Do you feel like you're giving a green light to politicians?
How do you explain why your case has become so important?
Does the White House think they have an Afghanistan problem or a COVID problem? Do you believe the abortion issue should reflect the will of the people or the will of the elected officials? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work or is this going to backfire? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Hey everybody, it's Hoda Kotb from The Today Show. I am so excited to tell you about my new podcast, Making Space with Hoda Kotb. I sit down with some incredible people and we'll hear some uplifting stories.
Listen to Making Space now on Apple Podcasts.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go!
Is the Delta variant more dangerous to kids or is it simply more transmissible?
Maryland's Principal of the Year.
I serve an amazing group of staff and students.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
In countries that don't have internet, regardless of how strong the teacher may be, when the student is at home and loses access to the classroom on a regular basis, it makes it very difficult to maintain engagement. So I think that's the primary difference between our system and the Guyanese system, is that our students, the majority of them do have internet access than the number of students who have internet access in Guyana. Guyana is a small country on the northern coast of South America, adjacent to Venezuela and Suriname and north of Brazil. My parents are Caribbean, but I'm American born. My name is Sean Shivdat. I'm the founder of Carbonated and the CEO. When COVID hit, I didn't actually believe. When Harvard sent all of their students home, I was in a lot of discussions with my friends who were also trying to get used to the new Zoom environment. And at the same time, I was speaking with family in Guyana. The whole time I was like, wow, I couldn't imagine not having internet during this problem. I had family and friends say the fact that students didn't have internet in Guyana and were going through the same thing we were. So I was like, man, it's so hard doing what we're doing. And it's like, really? Because students in Guyana don't have internet and they have to take a high-stakes secondary school exam. In Guyana, there's a primary school and then there's secondary school. The NGSA is short for the National Grade 6 Assessment in Guyana, which was formerly known as a Common Entrance Exam. The Common Entrance Exam was used as primarily a secondary school entrance exam, and the NGSA makes up a large component of secondary school placement in Guyana currently. So if you perform very, very well on the secondary school entrance exam, you can go to some of the highest performing secondary schools. But if you don't, then you're not accepted into those schools, which can make or break a lot of your future career paths. I actually do have an update regarding ways to get in contact with the ministry. I started producing exam prep materials in mid-March, and I guess the point at which your team is founded is when you start getting others to help you. So that happened at the end of March. Since then, our team has grown to about over 50 members in a range of different universities across the East Coast, but also the University of Guyana. I was not born in Guyana. It's a sense of reconnection with my family, but also people I've never met before that we share a common ancestry with. So there are a lot of different things that are brought to light when we're like doing this work in Guyana. We break down the communities that we serve, or the students that we serve, into two groups: students that have internet and students that don't have internet. For students that have internet, we've posted over 700 pages of open access free material on our website and via WhatsApp to a range of teachers and parents who have been sharing those around with other parents and teachers of students that do have internet. For students that don't have internet, we make it a top priority to fundraise and spend those funds to print and distribute to those students. About a few weeks before the exam started, we started an emergency printing and distribution campaign and fundraised in the United States to print materials that we created and have them distributed to regions without internet access. We go so far as to produce 1 to 2 pages of single-spaced answers for even one question. And this is because we are trying to get the information to be accessible to students even if they have no prior knowledge of the question.
Recently, the results were out and you were asking me some questions about what is considered like a good school or where the rankings were.
So Ashley is the head of the Yale Caribbean Students Organization. She reached out to us on social media. Ashley took a gap year and spent a lot of her time tutoring and helping students pass the NGSA. She spent a lot of her time just helping students in general going through the system in Guyana. None of us had the level of service in Guyana that she had. She brought to the team very, very high standards for our quality, for our materials. She brought to the team an unparalleled perspective on the communities that we serve.
I am the editor-in-chief of Carbonated, and what that means is essentially I take a look at the materials that we're producing and I do the final edits, but I also try to ensure that the questions being asked are culturally relevant. The example that Sean gave to me is that they were working in this indigenous community, and one of the math questions was sort of like, you have X many dollars and you want to buy X many cars. How many cars can you afford? And he was sort of like, this is a perfectly fine math question, but these kids aren't buying cars, right? Like, this isn't something that's like relatable to them. I think maybe the year that I took the NGSA, personally, I felt a lot of pressure and I think the pressure is a universal experience. I can still tell you what I got wrong on them. I can tell you like the grades that I got, which questions tripped me up, what I regret about those exams. So I feel like these exams are so high stake. While this might just be one thing, providing print resources to kids who don't have internet access, it still is a thing that can help.
I think COVID made it particularly difficult for teachers to maintain contact with students. We found that there were teachers who were trying to create WhatsApp groups with parents, trying to get in contact with students who were at home. And a lot of times parents didn't have the resources to maintain the data services on for their phones. And as a result, a lot of students missed out on what teachers were trying to convey. It was really, really difficult for teachers.
It is difficult for students who don't have internet access for several reasons. Carbonated have played a very special role to assist those students. The material also is very simple for parents or guardians to follow and guide their students while homeschooling.
So our daughter Rachel, who is 10 years old and was in grade 5 at the time, was starting to prepare for the National Grade 6 assessment. Because of the closure of schools, because of the pandemic, we were working with her at home to keep her involved and keep her learning. A former teacher of hers sent me one of the Carbonated guides, and in that guide, there was contact information for the group via Sean. Sean was so keen to keep helping, so he kept reaching out to me to find out how the guides were being used, what improvements could be made. The pandemic has posed all kinds of limitations, and because where we live, internet is restrictive in the amount of bandwidth we have, so communication isn't always easy, but he never lets up. The work that Sean has been doing with Carbonated has already had an impact on our children's ability to continue learning through this pandemic and will have a continued impact.
I think an important thing is that students in the U.S. who are not of Caribbean descent feel a similar way with the students they're helping in the Caribbean. During the pandemic, it's very difficult. My hope is that students that are preparing for exams, that are trying to stay engaged in the Caribbean without internet access, look out for each other and band together, because there are solutions to this.
In honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Throughout this month, we're looking at stories of survivors and the family and friends who help in those battles. And Hoda, a survivor herself, is here to help get us started.
Yeah, Savannah, I was diagnosed with breast cancer back in 2007, and every year more than 230,000 American women get that exact same diagnosis. So I had the chance to sit down in an exam room with my doctor, my breast cancer doctor, Dr. Freya Schnabel, director of breast surgery at New York University, to discuss detection, treatment, and the recovery process. When should a woman get her first mammogram?
Most of the major groups in the United States have maintained that we should be starting mammography at about age 40 and doing it annually.
I was 42. I went to the gyno for a visit. She felt a lump. Went for a mammogram, didn't see it on the mammogram really. What are other ways you can detect breast cancer?
The two other tests that are done reasonably frequently are number 1, ultrasound, and number 2, MRI.
I was 42 and I didn't see myself as high risk.
Breast cancer risk really goes up around age 50.
Angelina Jolie sort of put a face to genetic testing. Who should be checked?
So the people who really should concentrate on this are people with significant family histories. Today, it's also clear that there are a variety of other genes that can increase the risk for breast cancer.
Who needs chemotherapy and radiation?
Chemotherapy and radiation treat two completely different aspects of breast cancer. Radiation treatment primarily is used to lower the chances of a reoccurrence of disease in the breast. Chemotherapy, hormonal therapy, and special targeted drugs like Herceptin. The goal of all those treatments is to prevent the disease from metastasizing to other organs.
I remember just before I was wheeled into the operating room, my mom was standing right there and I was on the table, and you looked at my mom and you said, "I'm going to take good care of your daughter." How important do you think that is to have family and close loved ones with you?
I think that people who really are well supported and are embedded in great networks of support just get through the treatments better.
More and more people are surviving breast cancer, yet it still is the number 2 cancer killer of women in this country. So how are we doing?
The scorecard's very good. The survival for women at all stages is going up, including people with metastatic disease. We need to remember that there's a lifestyle piece of it too. Exercise moderately, to not smoke, to moderate alcohol intake, and I think that's really something we can't forget, is just living healthy.
We've learned so much through your journey, but there's just a lot of questions to ask. We want to bring in our special correspondent, Joan London, whose new book is called Had I Known. And Dr. Marisa Weiss is a breast oncologist and founder and president of breastcancer.org. She's been taking your questions on Facebook this morning. Ladies, good morning to you.
Joan and I both have something in common. Neither of us had any family history of breast cancer. One of the first questions they ask you when you go to the doctor is, do you have family history? Now, that is not a main component, is it, when you're being diagnosed with breast cancer?
Only 10% of breast cancers are due to an inherited genetic alteration, like an abnormality, like what Angelina Jolie had, which means that 90% are mostly related to how you lead your life in your everyday. And the good news there is that you can take steps every day to lower your risk.
But Joan, don't so many of us have that perception, like, oh, it's not in my family, so I don't really have to worry about it.
I'm going to be totally honest. I really didn't do self-breast exams, because I didn't realize that only a small percentage of women who are diagnosed actually have a family history, and I didn't have a family history, so I kind of thought I was immune, and honestly, I was a little embarrassed once I got diagnosed about that, but I hear from women every day at my online channel Alive. They're all saying the same thing. It's not just me. It's a really common myth, and it's scary because if you think that you're immune, you're not checking.
But should you get that genetic test? Because a lot of people think, well, wow, I don't know if I have it. Do you think women should line up to get that?
So there are certain women who are good candidates and really should seriously consider getting genetic testing to see if they have one of those genes that would put them at high risk for breast cancer. And those are women with a strong family history, or women who are of Ashkenazi Jewish background, even without a family history. Women who have breast cancer in men in their family, or a lot of generations, or there's maybe ovarian cancer in the family, or women diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer should have genetic testing.
Can we talk about the breast exam? Because we don't have this breast here just for fun. I mean, what is the proper way to do it? Because I think we've all been honest, like a lot of us don't know.
Well, breast self-exam is good to do in order to know what's normal for you and if there are any changes that may be worrisome. So you want to examine all of each breast out to the armpit, and you can go up and down like you would be mowing a lawn kind of thing, using 3 fingers and with a little bit of pressure for the right underneath your fingers and a little bit deeper, a little bit more pressure to get down there. And you can go in a circular fashion to examine the whole breast, or up and down. You want to examine all of each breast.
But what about mammograms? I feel so confused about whether you're supposed to every year, or what is the bottom line?
The bottom line is get your yearly mammogram starting at age 40. Mammograms can save your life. I mean, breast cancer is the most common cancer to affect women, and mammograms are our most powerful tool for early detection. It can save your life, and it may help it find it early when you can avoid, let's say, more aggressive treatments like chemotherapy.
And if you've had a first-degree relative, a mother or a sister, whatever that has had breast cancer, whatever age they had breast cancer, you start your mammograms 10 years earlier.
Right.
Am I right?
Right. If you're at high risk, your doctor may recommend that you start earlier, and you want to consider your family history on both your mother's side and your father's side, because both are equally important.
Okay.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
It was a wealthy, idyllic town forced to confront racism, but when the school board presented its plan, it ignited a national firestorm.
Critical race theory.
Racism
in reverse.
False narrative.
Shame.
This is Southlake. All episodes available now.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
Make the most of your day with
Today in 30. We give you a mix of everything you love about our show in a mere 30 minutes.
Watch Today in 30 on your schedule, streaming every day on Today All Day. For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Maria Shriver is getting her pink on
Getting
right
my
now.
pink ribbon on. You got yours on while we were in the break.
I do. We just want to say welcome to October. That song, which I think was playing, was Imperfections by Celine Dion.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
October.
There we go. Oh, there it is. Now it's coming up. Imperfections.
Yeah. It's the beginning of a month, and it's, I know a lot of breast cancer survivors sort of see October coming, and I remember sometimes when I was going through my sort of stuff back in the day, I remembered thinking October was coming, and sometimes it would make me feel a little bit like, oh, now this is going to be the focus of the whole month. But there are so many like positive things that are happening in the breast cancer space.
Yeah.
And I was reminded this morning, Maria, of what my boss said to me over here when I had first told him about my diagnosis. And I remember I was walking into his office and I was terrified. And I hadn't said it out loud to anyone at work. And I went up to this guy, David Corvo, and I said, I just want you to know something. I said, I said the word breast cancer, and I burst out into tears. And he put his hand on me and he said, I just want you to know something. He said, I know a lot of women with breast cancer, and they all have one thing in common. And I said, well, what's that? And he said, they're still here. And those words were, it like washed over me. And I know that there are many women who fight this battle, and they try everything, and it does not work at the end. But for a lot of women who catch it early, that is the case.
Yeah.
And it kind of gave me hope, and I remembered going from scared to, oh, okay.
Well, there were so many survivors out on the plaza this morning, and it's so inspiring.
Yeah.
They love talking to you. They have a camaraderie. So I think this month is also about survivors. It's about camaraderie. It's about sharing your experiences and about finding strength in that, because it's so different than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. Medicine is making so much progress, and as you said, there's still people that pass away with this, but there's so many more survivors today. So that's what today is about, celebrating, about giving community, and also continuing to put an accelerator on the research.
I agree with that. I agree with that. By the way, oh my!
Here's Hoda's new book. Oh, it's so beautiful.
You're in it. You're in it twice, I think.
In it too. I really needed this today.
Yeah.
I really needed this. Is so exciting. It's filled with all kinds of quotes that we really do need, because so many of us, and I put myself in this, I go to quotes to encourage myself, feel okay about myself, lift myself up. And Instagram has really been a great place, social media, to do that, because you find it, you do go like, I actually really needed that.
Yes.
That puts it all in perspective for you, me.
We were trying to think of a title for this book, Maria, and literally Jane, who's my co-writer on this book, said, you know one comment everybody writes at the bottom of some of these quotes? Is that you?
No, it's not me, but I just opened to a really good one for me. Fall in love with someone who doesn't make you think love is hard. I needed that today.
It's a good
I needed that. Probably I need all of these. Let me keep going. Everything is rigged in your favor.
That's
I needed that too.
Quote.
I love Rumi. I mean, he's one of my favorites, Hafiz. Not all storms come to disrupt your life. Some come to clear your path. That's true. It's hard to remember in the moment. That's hard to remember in the moment.
So a lot of them are. I think it's like, you remember when you said sometimes you talk to someone and they...
I'm just going to go read this. You just keep on talking.
Do you remember when you were talking about Mary Oliver, that poet, and you said she put words to what you were feeling, the incredible poet?
Yes.
That's what I feel like some of these quotes do. It's like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I was feeling.
Be the person you want to meet.
You know what this one? See that one right up there? There's one back there that says, storms make trees take deeper roots. That's a Dolly Parton quote. Can I just tell you one little tiny story that was so awesome?
Give every day the chance to become the most beautiful day of your life.
The Dolly Parton quote, get this. So Dolly Parton was standing right here. I'll never forget this day. She was standing in our studio, and Megan, our PR person, was in the studio. And she's met everybody. Tom Hanks, Beyonce, I don't know, everybody. And there was Dolly Parton, and I go, don't you love Dolly Parton? She was like, I can't go over there. I can't. She said, no, Dolly meant so much to her in her life. She was scared to go over and see her, because all throughout her life, she said her mom would tell her what Dolly would do and that kind of thing. I took Megan by the hand. I remember this because she was literally pulling back, and she stood in front of Dolly Parton, and she goes, she looked at Dolly Parton, and Dolly Parton opened up her arms, and she goes, come on in here, Megan, and hugged her. And Dolly Parton, and she said to Dolly, you practically raised me. You didn't even know. And I watched like Megan turn into like a 6-year-old girl all over again. And I thought just the power of that person.
Right, and also the power of like, come on in here.
Come in here. Yes,
Come
she had
on
her
in here
arms
and let
open.
me envelop you.
Yes.
Is such a powerful thing for anybody to give to anybody.
Yes.
Right? Come on in here.
Come on in.
Come on
Because you're
in.
afraid. She was afraid.
Come on in.
I love that.
Yeah.
This is one from my mom I love. It's not a quote that's famous. It's just famous in our house. And it was when Haley came home with me for the first time. My mom saw her and she said these words, "Hello, Miss Haley. We've waited so long for you."
Ah, that's come on in.
Come on in.
My mother's best quote was, "I don't want to hear one more yip out of you. Get out. Get going. Go
wait,
on."
what did she say? What?
I don't want to hear one more yip out of you.
Go on and get going.
Get out there. Get out there. Let's go. Come on.
I kind of like your mom's philosophy.
You do?
I'm kind of into it. I know that
You're into it.
I'm kind of into her, like, stop complaining.
How about no, don't stop, don't start.
Don't start.
Don't start.
So if you were complaining, she'd shut you down?
She said, "I want to hear one more yip out of you."
I like that.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
It was a wealthy, idyllic town forced to confront racism, but when the school board presented its plan, it ignited a national firestorm.
Critical race theory
Racism in reverse. False narrative.
Shame. This is Southlake. All episodes available now.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
Make the most of your day with Today All Day. Get closer to all your friends of today in a whole new way.
Today in 30.
We give you a mix of everything you love about our show
in a mere 30 minutes.
Shop today with Jill Martin.
We're helping you shop like never before.
The latest styles and biggest names. Today food.
Things are heating up in the Today All Day kitchen.
Cooking essentials and recipe inspiration.
Is that ready? Are you ready?
Oh, I'm so ready.
Only on Today All Day.
It was a wealthy, idyllic town forced to confront racism, but when the school board presented its plan, it ignited a national firestorm.
Critical race theory
Racism in reverse. False narrative. Shame.
This is Southlake. All episodes available now.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas. Weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas. Weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Erica Rux is a pediatric oncology nurse in Minneapolis, and she's just doing incredible work every day. And she does it even as she herself battles breast cancer. We're going to meet Erica in just a moment in person, but first, her mission to live life with hope.
Hi. Hi. What do you love about that profession?
It's the kids. I love working with kids.
Erica Rux is a pediatric oncology nurse at the University of Minnesota's Masonic Children's Hospital in Minneapolis.
Hopefully you get to start feeling better here soon.
Erica knows firsthand what it's like for the children she treats. When she was 15, Erica was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma.
As a kid, you had to go through chemo and radiation.
Yep.
Was that tough for you?
It was tough, but I still wanted to be me, and I still went to school through it all. I was in our high school's marching band, so I wasn't gonna let cancer take those things away from me.
Her cancer in remission, Erica studied to become a nurse, married her husband Chris, and they have 3 daughters. But in 2019, Erica was diagnosed with breast cancer.
It was probably the worst day of my life. It really was, because I didn't need the doctor to tell me what that meant. I knew as soon as it came out. I knew as soon as my doctor called me that PET scan didn't look good.
Erica's breast cancer spread to her spine. It was terminal, stage 4.
How do you tell the man you love that? How did you explain that?
It's hard. I mean, I'm like, well, it just means that it's not curable. It's hard. And so we had a good cry together. And we had a couple more since then. And we're working together to get through it.
How did you have the conversation with your young girls?
That probably was like the second worst day of my life. We started with my oldest, and we told her, that mom had a sickness and then it wasn't going to go away, but I'm getting, treated for it, and I'm going to be here for a very long time.
Despite her diagnosis, Erica continues to work at the hospital.
One of the many things that makes you remarkable is you put on your scrubs and you went back to work.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to do that?
Because I'm not just a wife, I'm not just a mom, but I'm also a nurse. It's part of who I am. And so I want to go back to work, and I want it, part of me wants to help the children that are here. So if I can do just a little bit to change a life, I view it as I'm helping to cure their cancer. So even if I can't cure my own, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try to cure somebody else's.
I feel like you're a living, walking life lesson. What are you hoping to teach through what you do?
I just don't ever give up hope. Live life, as much as you can. And if there wasn't a pandemic, I would be out traveling. In addition to all of this, my work and my family, I would be taking my family all over the country and all over the world. But that I'm going to have to just wait a little while longer, keep my hopes up.
Okay, are you inspired? This woman is amazing. Erica is here along with her family. Erica, is it true? Right now, are you you're on a shift and you're taking a break to sit here and talk with us this morning again?
Well, I'm actually not on a shift. They gave me the day off for this.
Well, you deserve it. How does it feel to just be surrounded by the people you love? You're with your family. You have all these nurses who've come out on this special day to be with you.
It's so amazing and a little overwhelming, honestly. I just try to be, I just try to be me, and I don't expect all the outpouring from anybody else or anybody else in the world. I just kind of want to, kind of just go through life, living my life. And this is just, it's so amazing to be surrounded by all these people. It's making me tear up.
Yeah, Hoda says you're a living, walking life lesson. I think you're a living, walking angel too, Erica. I mean, you're just incredible. Our correspondent Morgan is there, and I know she's got something she wants to share with you. Morgan, I'm gonna let you take it away.
Well,
hey there, guys. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hey, I'm here.
I don't know what it is.
Hello, guys. I'm here to see you, Erica. I've got a little surprise for you.
Okay.
Because Ford Warriors in Pink heard about all your hours and years and service and dedication as a nurse, and they wanted to surprise you with this new 2020 Ford Explorer. And we're so excited because that's not it, Erica. Just for you, if you look inside this car, there are 13,000 masks inside that you can share with other women so that you can help protect them in their breast cancer fight.
Okay.
But it doesn't even stop there. Because Erica, we heard you talk about wanting to travel with your family and continue to make memories. And so Ford is providing you a $10,000 ultimate road trip experience so that you guys can see the country. You can travel, you can make memories.
Oh my gosh.
How are you feeling?
I don't even know what to think right now. It's amazing. I mean, I don't feel like I definitely deserve all of this.
You absolutely deserve all of this. You've been helping children day in and day out. You haven't even stopped working. You're here in the middle of your own shift. You're raising beautiful children and a beautiful family, and we are all so excited for you and grateful to you for all that you've been doing. So I hope you get in this car with your beautiful babies and you have a beautiful trip and make beautiful memories.
Thank you so much.
Do you know where you're going first, Erica? I'm dying to know. I'm dying to know.
I was planning to take the family out to Hawaii, so I don't I don't know if I can make a road trip there, but we'll find
Erica,
some place to go.
somehow we're going to make that trip to Hawaii happen. You said that was on your list of things to do. I'm not calling it a bucket list. It's going to be a to-do list, and we want to make that happen too.
No,
so
it's a to-do list.
We're honored to know you. You're an incredible human being, and you're changing lives every day. Those kids in the pediatric ward, I mean, they're really fortunate to have someone like you holding their hand, because you're really one in a million. You really are.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so
wow,
much.
it's just, again, overwhelming, so overwhelming.
All right, guys, can we all give Erica a big round of applause out there? Erica!
Yes! Erica, hats off to you!
We wish you the best of luck, hon.
Get behind the wheel and put the pedal to the metal, okay? And go see the world. We're sending you all our love and wrapping our arms around you.
That's my plan.
I think good. That's the plan.
All right, Erica, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today.
Let's go.
Is the Delta variant more dangerous to kids, or is it simply more transmissible?
Maryland's Principal of the Year.
I serve an amazing group of staff and students.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
It was a wealthy, idyllic town forced to confront racism, but when the school board presented its plan, it ignited a national firestorm.
Critical race theory.
Racism in reverse. False narrative.
Shame.
This is Southlake. All episodes available now.
Still to come on the Channel 2 News. Well, the waters are certainly receding now.
Still too close to call. Lester Holt reporting from
Ground Zero, as it's being referred to. It is, in fact, a taste of freedom.
The Haitian people know a little something about resiliency. What's the biggest risk right now? Some of the troops who have been proud. I want to welcome you to the first presidential debate. In fact, we've been told we can't go any farther. Here are some resilient folks. Let me get a hint.
It was a wealthy, idyllic town forced to confront racism, but when the school board presented its plan, it ignited a national firestorm.
Critical race theory.
Racism in reverse. False narrative.
Shame.
This is Southlake. All episodes available now.
It is time for Hodovation. What is your Hodovation today?
Okay. So first of all, I want to thank anybody who's bought the book. This just speaks to me. Thank you. It means the world. I mean, that was really cool that y'all did that. So here's one from the book. Here's a quote. We met for a reason. Either you're a blessing or a lesson. And the source is nobody knows. We don't know who said it, but a lot of people did.
I like that for
like that one?
my ex-boyfriends, right?
Yes. Anybody who you came in and you were like, what the hell? Why
Why
were
did
they
I
in
keep
my
him
world?
around so long?
Yeah, we met for a reason, either a blessing or a lesson.
Hoda, we have something for you today, because speaking of people coming in to your life and not noticing or knowing why it mattered, there was this woman, and this is a story on Overheard Celebs, which I guess is an Instagram account where people share their celebrity encounters. I'd never heard of it, but this is really sweet. Okay, so about a year and a half ago, a woman recognized you in a nail salon. She had just lost her friend to breast cancer, and you hugged her, consoled her, and then you paid for her manicure before slipping out. So she wrote on this Instagram account that what that meant, not just to me, but to everyone who lost a dear friend, is impossible to put into words. Do you remember that?
You know what's funny? I do remember, because I remember not knowing that her friend had passed. I knew her friend had cancer at the time, and when I asked like how she was doing, I remember she told me that she had passed away, and it was so jarring. I remember being in that nail salon with her, and you feel like when someone's in pain, like you want to do something, and you're just sitting there with your hands in a thing, and I didn't know, it sounds weird, but I didn't know what to do to help. But she was so sweet. What a sweet person. I mean, I remember meeting her. That's a cool thing.
Isn't that cool?
But that's cool that they do that. I can't wait to read
I know,
about
I think
what
some
people
of them aren't that great. But the point is, of course yours is. Of course yours is, and we all know that you are who you are, and you always practice what you preach.
we've turned the orange room into the pink room, and you mentioned that our mission with the organization Fighting Pretty, and we asked you to send in some words of support for those fighting breast cancer. We've even got some amazing folks out on our plaza working hard. They're writing messages too. We're going to be using all of these messages to fill our care packages. Look, they're doing a great job. We're going to go join them here in a few minutes. But you at home have been so nice sending in some words of encouragement, very powerful words. I want to share, get to some of those, as many as I can. Jennifer writing, I'm still fighting to stay cancer-free every day. So ladies and gents, don't give up. Stay positive. Even when things are looking bleak, attitude is everything. Melissa adds, I just celebrated my 3-year cancerversary. You can do it one day at a time with the hashtag there. And Donna adds, you're all pink warriors and you got this. We here at the show wanted to take, there's the info there if you want to send in your messages. We have our messages right here. Guys, you all got them? Yeah. I wrote, my message says, my mom, Patty Daly Caruso, beat breast cancer. So can you.
Wow.
Remember that. What do you guys have?
Yeah, that's awesome. What'd you write?
Know that you're not fighting this alone. Friends, family, even strangers are pulling for you and there with you.
Yeah, Hoda, nice. You have a good one.
I just wrote, the one word that always worked for me was forward. Like, I used to write that in my journal when I was going through it, and I always wear a pink ring that says forward. And I started, like, giving them away, because once you're past it, I think it's good just to pay it forward. Just know there's greener grass ahead.
Yeah. My mom was a 2-time survivor. Your strength defines you and makes you bigger than this disease. It's what moves you forward.
Yeah.
Right. What you got, Savannah?
You're stronger than you know, and you're surrounded by love.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm psyched to see you here with me on my favorite streaming channel today, all day. And I'm also excited to be hosting our new program, Pop Start Plus. Every day, we're going to dive into the latest entertainment headlines and bring you celebrity interviews. We're going to cover music, movies, TV, and a whole lot more. Coming up, we're going to hear from a star of the show Succession, which premiered its highly anticipated 3rd season just last night, and a star from You. Yes, the thriller with a cult following is back. Up first, let's get to those headlines, shall we? First up on Pop Start Plus, Halloween Kills, the latest film in the franchise about the terrifying masked Michael Myers, scored big at the box office over the weekend, proving people are in the spooky holiday spirit. And the new Halloween movie tops ticket sales, raking in over $50 million. The gory flick coming in far ahead of Ben Affleck and Matt Damon's weekend debut of their latest film, The Last Duel. Halloween Kills standing out for also being simultaneously released on streaming. It's currently available to watch on Peacock from our parent company, NBC Universal. Next up, someone we cannot stop talking about, that is Adele. Following the highly anticipated release of her new single, Easy on Me, Adele has officially broken the record for Spotify's most streamed song in a single day. On Friday, the Grammy winner's first new song in almost 6 years debuted with 24 million streams in just 24 hours. Easy on Me, knocking out the previous record holder. The song Butter by BTS, and Adele's latest hit is just the first single off the upcoming album titled 30 that we're all excited about. That is set to be released on November 19th. Next up, the Batman. Many men have worn the iconic suit, and now we're getting a first look at Hollywood's latest take on the comic book hero. Robert Pattinson making his debut in the first trailer from this weekend's DC Fandom event, and the preview teases a dark and gritty take on the beloved superhero. Take a look.
Fear is a tool. But when that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning.
If this continues, it won't be long before you've nothing left.
I don't care what happens to me.
There's a quick little look. The film also stars Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman and Paul Dano as the Riddler, Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon. The Batman is scheduled to hit theaters March 4th, 2022. Next up, Saturday Night Live. This weekend host Rami Malek and cast favorite Pete Davidson took on the show everybody's been talking about, Squid Game. The two led a music video parodying Netflix's most popular show. Take a look.
I'm broken, it's a damn shame. Guess I gotta play the Squid Game. Yes, I gotta play the Squid Game. My only option is the Squid Game. Weird cards, pink guards, locked us in a big room.
Well, if the song that they parodied sound familiar, it's the SNL, that tune was from 2017. It was a viral hit called Turn Up on the Weekend by Branches and Big Wet, AKA our own Harry Smith's son, Jake. That's right, Harry Smith, who works here, has a country music sensation in the family. And Jake, who goes by the stage name Big Wet, was even featured in the SNL sketch, making our beloved Harry Smith just that much cooler. I didn't think it was possible, but it is. Next up, Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker, the reality star and Blink-182 drummer, are engaged. Kourtney confirming the news on Instagram with this post captioned, "Simply forever." The images from the proposal showing the couple standing in a giant heart made of roses and candles on the beach. Kardashian and Travis began dating in January of this year, and even little sister Kim revealing a peek at the big ring, sharing this short video of the couple celebrating on social media. Big congratulations going out to Kourtney and Travis. Next up, John Legend over the weekend. Legend was walking around Boston's Faneuil Hall when he heard a familiar song and had to stop and listen. That is Radha Rayo performing Legend's hit song All of Me. The singer posted that video on Instagram, writing in the caption, "Performing at Faneuil Hall has given me some of the most spontaneous life experiences. Grateful to have gotten the opportunity to sing for the incredible John Legend and his family today." Wow, talk about performing under pressure. All right, finally, a couple of big announcements involving our friend Hoda Kotb. First, she is among one of the honorees at this year's Matrix Awards. She's been selected because of her courage to break boundaries and steadfast commitment in championing the next generation of storytellers. She joins the ranks of past honorees, which include Toni Morrison, Meryl Streep, and in 2017, our very own Savannah Guthrie. And as if she's not busy enough, today also marks the release of an all-new episode of Making Space with Hoda Kotb. This is a fantastic episode. Hoda sits down with an eye-opening conversation with life coach Iyanla Van Zandt. Let's take a little look at that.
Have you, in your life, have you been someone who has held on to things when you thought, boy, I probably should have let that thing go?
Yeah, absolutely. And letting go and surrender have been my trust, surrender, and letting go. Those have been my two biggest lessons. But I hold on long after it's necessary or productive.
Yeah. Like, and why do you think? Just because you're used to it? Because you're accustomed to it?
Well, I think the thing that I've held on to the longest is men. Long after I should have let go, I was go. You know, because one of the greatest human fears is losing love.
Yeah.
And so, particularly when we're in a relationship, and if we think that person is giving us the love we want, we'll hold on, not realizing that what that person is doing is stirring up the love that we are.
Oh, say that again?
Well,
yeah.
In relationships, people don't bring you love or give you love. What they do is make you aware of the depth of love that you are.
And to listen, just search for Making Space with Hoda Kotb on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And those are your Popstar Plus headlines for today. After the break, we're going to hear from one of the stars of the long-awaited new season of Succession.
Make the most of your day with
Today in 30. We give you a mix of everything you love about our show in a mere 30 minutes.
Watch Today in 30 on your schedule, streaming every day on Today All Day.
Still to come on the Channel 2 News. Well, the waters are certainly receding now.
Still too close to call. Lester Holt reporting from the
Ground Zero, as it's being referred to. It is, in fact, the taste of freedom.
The Haitian people know a little something about resiliency. What's the biggest risk right now? Some of the troops who have been proud. I want to welcome you to the first presidential debate. In fact, we've been told we can't go any farther. You were some resilient folks. Let me get a hint.
Hey everybody, it's Hoda Kotb from The Today Show. I am so excited to tell you about my new podcast, Making Space with Hoda Kotb. I sit down with some incredible people and we'll hear some uplifting stories.
Listen to Making Space now on Apple Podcasts.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
It was a wealthy, idyllic town forced to confront racism, but when the school board presented its plan, it ignited a national firestorm.
Critical race theory.
Racism in reverse. False narrative.
Shame.
This is Southlake. All episodes available now.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
And you're back with us here on Popstar Plus. Succession returned to HBO last night, its third season. The show explores the high-stakes drama within the powerful and wealthy Roy family. We caught up with one of its stars, Justine Loop, who plays Connor Roy's girlfriend, Willa, and she gave us a sneak peek at what viewers can expect to see this season.
What people will find surprising about this season of Succession is how relentlessly consistent it is, how strong this season is.
My family have disappeared. I need to know where everyone is and what everyone's thinking.
There he is, the little man who started this big war.
And there are some really fun turns with all of the characters, and it'll be a blast to kind of see how everybody responds to all the fun turns that they have in store. Willa is Connor's girlfriend, who initially started out as a hired girlfriend and then became his permanent girlfriend. I would say that she's incredibly savvy, a little bit manipulative, but I actually do feel like she's incredibly vulnerable as well and has a pretty big heart. So she's a weird mix of, she's a hybrid character. She's not as easily hateable as some of the other characters, in my opinion. I think over the seasons, it's been nice to just kind of understand what the dynamic is between these two people. It's a really complicated, kind of strange relationship that you don't see very often. So I was as interested as I imagine the audience was in trying to figure out, like, what is going on here? In terms of Willa in particular, I will say there are a lot of people who have been very disturbed by the tossing of the iPad moment in season 2, in a way that I did not expect. People are like, that was disgusting. That was terrifying. I was like, oh, it's so funny. I didn't really think of it as being a terrifying move in the moment, because I was thinking of it as through Willa's journey to that, chucking it off the boat. But I've been surprised at how many people are like, that was crazy and horrible. So every time I get one of these scripts, I feel so lucky just to be reading it. It's so exciting.
Do you have an actual case, Ken?
Yes, I can kill him. Is he gonna watch?
Could we make a note in the minutes that he's watching?
The characters are all so clear and fun. It's almost like an elevated dialogue. It feels like Shakespearean or something. It's so different than anything that you kind of run into on TV. There's definitely some eccentricity to it. And then to watch these incredible actors take the writing and just play with every single take is a different thing. I'm not kidding when I say I've learned from every single actor on this show. Matthew McFadden, even watching him in a table read, it feels like he's channeling some acting spirit god person. I'm like, how did you get this last night? And you're coming to the table and you just, that's what you deliver, is just this shiny, beautiful, fantastic performance. And we're in a table read under fluorescent lighting, just it's insane watching him. I think Sarah Snook, watching her and just how different she is from her character in real life. She's this kind of hippie, fun, goofy, blast of a person. And then just to see her zip into Shiv, this powerhouse shark dragon lady, it's amazing. Nick Braun, I love watching him just play, and he's so incredibly lovable, and he's also an incredible improv actor. He's really, really good. Watching Alan, playing with Alan, acting with Alan is such a treat. He's so open and vulnerable and there for it and quick. And then Brian Cox, it's like watching a giant just come in and just be throwing it down every single time. And he's also just the most empathetic, kind human. In terms of pulling out a message from the show, I'm sure everybody has their own kind of takeaway. My takeaway watching it is, gosh, power can be lonely and cold. And that's what I'm constantly shocked by, is watching all these characters is just what cold and lonely life this seems to be. Even though they're all so entrenched in their dynamics, there's so much distance between all of them. And like couples that you know, Tom and Shiv and Logan and Marsha, like just watching and absorbing the way that they all interact with each other. I'm like, wow, you guys have everything. And it looks like the worst, most cold, you know, I want to take a bath after watching it and just like hug everyone that I love. I think people are really hooked on Succession because of the quality and the story. It's a really wild marriage of something that feels relatable to our time and to, you know, the way that we imagine those in power, and also kind of feels like this like foreign land that we all get to like kind of tap into this thing that's like kind of inaccessible that not many people have access to. And then on top of that, I just think the quality, like there are a lot of people behind this project that like care very deeply. And I think that translates into the quality of the show.
Succession airs on HBO on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. Coming up on Popstar Plus, we've got a conversation you're not going to want to miss with a breakout star from the latest season of You on Netflix.
Does the White House think they have an Afghanistan problem or a COVID problem? Do you believe the abortion issue should reflect the will of the people or the will of the elected officials? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work or is this going to backfire?
If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Still to come on the Channel 2 News. Well, the waters are certainly receding now.
Still too close to call. Lester Holt reporting from
Ground Zero, as it's being referred to.
It is, in fact, the taste of freedom.
The Haitian people know a little something about resiliency. What's the biggest risk right now?
Some of the troops who have been proud.
I want to welcome you to the first presidential debate. In fact, we've been told we can't go any farther. You with some resilient folks. Let me get a hint.
Does the White House think they have an Afghanistan problem or a COVID problem? Do you believe the abortion issue should reflect the will of the people or the will of the elected officials? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work or is this going to backfire?
If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today.
Let's go!
Is the Delta variant more dangerous to kids, or is it simply more transmissible?
Maryland's Principal of the Year.
I serve an amazing group of staff and students.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
It was a wealthy, idyllic town forced to confront racism, but when the school board presented its plan, it ignited a national firestorm.
Critical race theory
Racism, it refers false narrative.
Shame.
This is Southlake. All episodes available now.
Welcome back. You, the smash Netflix series starring Penn Badgley as a charming stalker serial killer, has returned. Now back for its third season. Audiences will see Joe and his wife Love set up in a new town where they meet a mom influencer played by Shalita Grant. Grant spoke to us why people cannot stop watching this show and what we're going to see from her character this season.
There's something so gross that we all identify with Joe and we want him to win, but it's so terrible. You know, it's so much a part of our culture, you know, these stories of homicides and stalking and things. So I think that as we're a little desensitized to it, but again, it's just thrilling to identify with a bad guy. I would describe Sherry Conrad as the queen of Madre Linda. She is a momfluencer, which means that she's found a way to make her beauty and mistakes bankable online. She has a stunning husband and perfectly imperfect children. And, you know, she really does run Madre Linda. And the deeper and deeper the audience gets into the inner sanctum of Madre Linda, you get an idea of what that hold is that Sherry has on the community.
I was super glad to see you in class today. That class is for really fit people, but don't worry, you'll get used to it. I had so much baby weight to lose.
Same, I had quite the journey. I mean, much worse than yours.
It was, it really was.
The first thing that I enjoyed that was oh, naughty little actress, I'm gonna really enjoy this. But the thing that was so juicy about Sherry is that she weaponizes her femininity in a really calculated way. There's a lot of gaslighting, a lot of manipulation, a lot of cattiness, and she really plays into the politics of pretty. Now, the challenge, when I talked to the showrunner and got the arc of my character, I realized that there was gonna be some crying. The one thing that I couldn't do was cry on cue. So when I got the job, I was like, this gets billions of streamers. Ain't no way in hell I'm gonna fail at this. So I went back to the drawing board and I went back and I was like, gotta do some, script analysis, break down the scene, get deeper into the character and beyond the physical and the fun, really get to the heart and the soul of the character. And I'm proud to say that I did that role and that role made me a stronger actress.
Joseph, there you are.
It's Joe, just Joe. This is a lovely collection, Peaches.
It's Peach.
I think what you learn about Peach, right, with her name, what's a peach? Well, it has a hard core, it's sweet on the outside, but it has that hard seed, that really rock solid core. And you learn that Peach is really bitter. But we see Sherry is the queen of hearts at a costume party. And I think that at the end of the season, you learn that, Sherry is the queen of hearts. She has a lot of heart. There's a lot of love at the core of Sherry. So I think that it's a bait and switch with Sherry. You think you're getting Peach, but you really get a different person. Especially when the going gets tough, it's really important to have, actors that have a lot of experience and are really committed to a kind of leadership. And I do have to say of Penn, Penn is really a dream. The serial killer that he plays, I don't think the show would be as successful if he was a creep, if he was really a jerk. Penn is the sweetest guy that I've ever and just simple. So, he really helped, ground the day because there was a lot that was going on with him too. So it was it was good that, as a man, that there was no him trying to take advantage of the situation, And for me, that was the tops.
Hello. Do you work here?
Guilty. Can I help you find something?
Paula Fox?
It's a good choice.
I feel weirdly validated.
Joe, we see him in season 1 in sort of the immaturity of his obsessions, right? And by the time you get to the end of season 2, he's met love and he has a love child growing. So what is it like when a stalker serial killer becomes a father and a husband? And he's married to a woman who's just as complicated, for a lack of a better word. So season 3 is really a maturity thing, and you get to see their mature but immature relationship against Sherry and Carrie, who has a longer relationship and a stronger bond in their marriage. So you're watching these two couples and they're facing a lot of the same things. Sherry and Carrie have twins, so you get to see a couple that's been through it and a couple that's starting their trajectory, but with a twist, a killer twist. I've never been on a show with as much viewership as you, billions of streams. So, you know, shooting the show, there were every episode, there was something I, ooh, I can't wait for them to see this child. Oh my God, they ain't gonna see this coming. Oh my God. So the whole, like, honestly, it's the whole season, but I'm really pumped to log into Twitter the morning after the drop and go in with something crunchy and read all the comments. That's honestly, for me, that's what I'm looking forward to, the reactions to it all.
That show really has got people glued to the couch. You is now streaming on Netflix. Next up, we're taking a look back at one of our favorite moments with Zac Efron on this, his 34th birthday.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Make the most of your day with Today All Day. Get closer to all your friends of today in a whole new way.
Today in 30. We give you a mix of everything you love about our show in a mere 30 minutes.
Shop today with Jill Martin.
We're helping you shop like never before.
The latest styles and biggest names. Today Food.
Things are heating up in the Today All Day kitchen.
Cooking essentials and recipe inspiration.
Get ready. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm so ready.
Only on Today All Day.
Hey everybody, it's Hoda Kotb from the Today Show. I am so excited to tell you about my new podcast, Making Space with Hoda Kotb. I sit down with some incredible people and we'll hear some uplifting stories.
Listen to Making Space now on Apple Podcasts.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas. Weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Do you feel like the bad guy in this? Why should they believe you when they know that people are getting in? Has it been worth it to make this trip?
Do you feel like you're giving a green light to politicians?
How do you explain why your case has become so important?
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Pop Start Plus. Now it's time to go from the vault, where we dip into the Today Show archives for a favorite moment from the show's history. Today is Zac Efron's 34th birthday, so we thought we'd mark the occasion with this memorable moment from 2016, the Rio Olympics. We found out just how much Simone Biles loved Zac. Take a look.
We heard your song at the arena.
While Zac was hidden away, the entire gymnastics team showed up thinking they were just doing another interview with me. They didn't have a clue.
Now, Simone, do you remember when we did the interview last time, you said that if a certain person showed up, you would need a defibrillator.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes, stop. If you bring him out, I think I'm going to pass out.
Do you remember that?
Stop.
Do you remember? Wait, do you remember that? Do you remember that?
Stop. Wait, I want to hug too. Oh my God.
How's it going?
Good. How did you do this? Oh my God.
Simone, can I just ask you one question? What's going on right now?
I'm shaking. I'm so scared.
I don't know. I'm the one with butterflies. I was nervous too.
How did you make this happen? Trust me, I'm not crazy.
He was watching on this big monitor every move.
I didn't even do my signature wink. I forgot.
Wait, will you do it now for him? Because we've got time.
That's a good night. When I found out you guys were fans, I was like, what am I doing sitting here on the couch? I have to come see you, come hang out and support you guys.
He hopped on the plane.
Yeah, I immediately got on the plane.
He's even more gorgeous in person.
You guys are like America's heroes right now.
You need to put your arm around that little girl because
Come here. You're the best. It's so fun to watch you. You're the absolute best.
you.
Awesome.
She's always like super calm.
Give
by
me
the
some
way.
high
She's
fives.
always
High five.
I was gonna say I've never seen you're super calm when the
Yeah, she
whole
is so
eyes of the
calm.
world are on you when you're about to perform a routine, and in this particular moment, you're totally dying.
Olympic gold medalists. But on this night, just teenagers at heart, on top of the world.
You going?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Little trip down memory lane right there. We hope that you'll join us tomorrow. More Pop Start Plus. Savannah's going to be chatting with Trisha Yearwood for her 6-minute marathon series. Plus, we'll be catching up with the cast of the beloved Babysitters Club on Netflix. Have a great day, and we'll see you right back here on Pop Start Plus tomorrow.